welcome to the 468th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is a podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big, awesome supporter of the show. You can be a big, awesome supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Last week I've done a couple of Lois Lane comic books, like from the 60s, Silver Age, weird and wacky. Last week's, I've been reading these a lot. You know, I love these comics. They always have a clever explanation, and I have to say the explanation for the cover of what I did last week, it kind of caught me off guard, and it was just, I'm like, really? So you can listen to that. I'm hoping to do an Off My Mind this week. I have a tiny glimpse of an idea. We'll see. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. You can also go to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Go to the shops tab. You can buy the old Off of Mind podcast episodes for the price of a virtual cup of coffee. Go on your browser. Don't use the iOS app because they charge you more. And you can listen to these topics about cool things. So what do we have going on for this week's show? The movie feature is The End of Oak Street. Now I'm really like fascinated with this. I enjoyed the movie. Let's just say that. I'm fascinated because I don't know where this movie came from. It's like all of a sudden I talked about this before. I saw the trailer and I was like, I didn't even know that Anne Hathaway and Ewen McGregor had this movie coming out. And it was just, it's very ambitious. It's big. And then even when I watched it, I was like, wait, this is a Bad Robot movie? I didn't even know that. I knew like nothing about it. It's crazy. So you can hear that. It's also crazy. Like Anne Hathaway, how many movies does she have out this year? Because she has this one, The Devil's Wear Prada 2. She had Odyssey. She had some other one about a mom. It wasn't a good mom because there's another mom. But so she's got 4. It's crazy. Anyways, more on that, so you can hear about that. That reminds me of something else I want to talk about. We have Silo's cranking up, getting close to the end of the season. We have more Batman Cape Crusader, more X-Men 97. That is almost finished as well. And then we got My Adventures of Superman, which is almost... These shows are wrapping up, which is kind of good for me because I have school starting this week, so I'm going to have a lot less time. And also, you might notice, I didn't mention Lanterns. So Lanterns starts this week. By the time I publish this, it won't even be out yet, the first episode, but it'll be on later that day. But probably by the time you go to check out the show, it might be available. So we'll be like, that week behind, give you a chance to watch it, and then you can hear, full recap and thoughts and all that stuff. There's a rumor, so Christopher Abbott might be Professor X. Now, what I should mention, this past weekend was D23. So the Disney big, new whatever thing. So there's big announcements going to be made. As I record this, I don't know what those announcements are. They're probably happening right now or whatever. And I'm probably not going to go back and edit. I don't know. Because, there's probably going to be a Starfighter trailer. Hopefully that would be great. They'll probably announce more of the X-Men cast. Maybe we'll get some Doomsday or Secret War stuff because there wasn't really much at Comic-Con. It was just there wasn't anything really new for that. I think there's some speculations like there's going to be a new Doomsday trailer, or maybe there'll be a trailer just for people at D23 because they like to do stuff like that. It's like, oh, you didn't get to go there, it's too bad. But there's speculation for a Doomsday trailer because I think the countdown clock has changed or something like that. So people are thinking, I don't know. But going back to this Professor X thing, a couple, like two different scoopers, I forget who, they say, at least one of them said that Professor X, that this Christopher Abbott has been, quote unquote, officially cast. It was like, officially cast? Like, according to who? I think Hollywood Reporter might have said that he was in the running, or not that he was in the running. I think they said that he auditioned. I think they mentioned him and Bill Skarsgård, possibly. Those are people who were trying out for Professor X. But the scoopers, one of the scoopers, I don't know who it was, they're saying that Professor X has been officially cast. No, he has not. As I record this, he has not been he has not been officially cast. There has been no official announcement. And just because you may have heard something, it's not official until it's official. I don't care if they heard Kevin Feige talking about it. It's not official until it is officially announced. Because I would love, I don't necessarily love it, but I still feel like they could be tricking people and saying stuff. And because there's even someone where they're like, oh, my source must have got it wrong about something. I mentioned it last week. So I don't know. But it's like, who says he's officially cast? Now, does Christopher Abbott, I was like, who is that Christopher Abbott? And that's just on me because I'm horrible with people's names. And I apologize if I've ever forgotten your name or mispronounced your name or whatever. That's just my curse, I guess. I don't know. But I'm not super familiar with like the younger actors. I don't know who they are because a lot of times, just like, I think I could be wrong. No. There's someone else who was in, I can't even think of his name. He was in The Outer Banks. And he made statements. He's like, yeah, I'd be open to do Marvel or DC stuff because, that'd be cool. I don't know who he is. Never watched The Outer Banks. I don't know anything about it. He could be like phenomenal actor. No idea. So I don't know their names because I don't watch a lot of these younger shows or the hipper shows, whatever you want to call it. So, but this Christopher Abbott, apparently, I think he was the foreigner in Kraven the Hunter. So he's sort of been in a Marvel movie, but not really, right? So we'll see. And I guess people aren't really happy, or some people are questioning the choice, the response to these scoopers, because it doesn't look like Professor X. He's going to have to shave his head or get a ball cap or whatever. But the thing is, there are not a lot. There's a vocal minority maybe who, and I agree with this. I feel like James McAvoy, they should have got him to play Professor X. Because while he's still young, he's older than when he did, the First Class movies. So he's done it before. We know he's done a great job. He could definitely do it again. Maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. Or, maybe he costs too much. Or I don't know. I have no idea. But this Christopher Abbott, I don't know what his age is, but he seems a little young. It's like, okay, that's what you're going to do? Because Professor X should be older. And, a lot of people are like, oh, you should get Michael Fassbender to play Magneto. Same thing. Maybe he doesn't want to. I don't know. So we will have to wait and see. And, like I said, maybe there's information already out there. So I mentioned Lanterns. We'll talk more about Lanterns. I can save that for the end. I guess there's going to be more Jon Stewart. I guess he's going to be in Man of Tomorrow. I don't know who's in Man of Tomorrow. I can't keep track of it. And, I don't want to read too much spoilers. But it seems like there's going to be so many people. And it's good, but it seems like there's too much. Because, you look at someone like, Mr. like Metamorpho in Superman. He barely had a chance to shine. He did some cool stuff, but then you look at Hawkgirl. She had kind of small role. Guy Gardner had a small there were bigger roles, but it's like, and then you got Miss Terrific. You got just like so many people. So I don't know, but apparently Jon Stewart's going to have more after Man of Tomorrow, looking at putting him in different things. But when I was reading this report, it said something like writer and producer Tom King has reportedly hinted at a major plot twist that can be considered controversial by fans. If it's what I think it is, man, I'm going to dust off the Twitter, whatever, and say that this is stupid. My idea, it's that thought that we've had before, the idea, the rumor, the speculation that Hal Jordan's going to get killed off, and that's why Jon Stewart is the next big thing. And again, not knocking Jon Stewart or Jon Stewart fans. He is a crucial and important character. Hal Jordan is my favorite Green Lantern, and it has nothing to do with race or anything like that. It's because he is the first Green Lantern that I read, that I saw when I saw those old Super Friends cartoons, and I thought it was like such a cool thing. And then I think one of the first Green Lantern comics I read was like Emerald Dawn, and I was like, what? Hal Jordan's in jail? Is he drink? I don't remember if he was like an alcoholic or is drinking, but it's like I do not understand. And then the other reason I would buy this is if Tom King is involved with the show. This is a guy who, he did Heroes in Crisis. Oh my God. That was such a, I cannot believe that train wreck of an ending. And kid gloves are off. I am not going to sugarcoat it. I hated the way that ended. And I think, there are times I've actually forgotten what happened. I've pushed it out of my recollection, and I feel like a lot of DC Comics has done that as well. And then you got Alfred. Why? What is the point in killing Alfred in the comics? It makes absolutely no sense. And what makes it even worse is there's been times they could have reverted it. They could have fixed it. But it's so stupid to kill him off. What is the point of that? I don't understand why it does nothing. It doesn't add any value. And it's like, oh, Batman's got a new butler now. Okay, yeah, maybe add some dynamics or whatever, and I trust Mac Fraction with what he can come up with. I don't see the point of it. And I feel like, hasn't Tom King killed someone else off? I don't know, so we'll have to see. Ahsoka season 2, it's other stuff at D23. I guess there's some costumes on display, so you see Anakin and Padawan, Ahsoka's snowsuit costumes, so there'd be some Clone Wars flashback stuff, so that's cool. And I guess we got looks at Sabine and Admiral Thrawn and stuff like that, so cool stuff there. We'll see. Spider-Man Brand New Day, it continues to kick butt at the box office. I think there's a 50 to 60% drop, and they're and it's weird because they're not making a big deal out. They're that's normal. It's yes, it is normal, but for its third week, it is still doing well. It's I don't know where it's at now, or where it will be by the time you listen to this. It's just over $700 million domestic. So that was actually as of August 13th. Is that number. So just over 700 million, and they're saying it might be at 1.92 billion by Sunday. So it's almost at $2 billion globally, worldwide. That is crazy. And just the fact that there's still so many people that just look down at superhero movies. They're oh, whatever, that's for kids. It's no, it's not. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but when I saw Brand New Day the second time, so the second week, theater was packed. And, it was a big theater. It was a screen, big Screen X theater. And it was packed. It was a Thursday night. So we got that. It's Thunderbolts Asterisk 2 rumors. I don't even know if they would call it that. because if you saw the movie, you know. But these are just rumors, and a lot of this sounds like speculation, guessing, whatever. I mean, if you watch the movie, if you know comics, you know, these are very good guesses. I don't know if there's any truth to them. I am super skeptical, and you know, it's no insult to anyone, whoever's reporting on this. But one report is, you know, possibly they're going to be repurposing Taskmaster's tech for a new version of Taskmaster. I could see that happening. That would make sense. It's crazy what they did to Taskmaster, and you know, and because there were people who were not happy with Taskmaster and Black Widow, I could totally see them using this opportunity, whatever, and they could bring in, what's his name, Tony something. I don't know. There's also they're talking about like maybe they'll bring in the Abomination. That would be crazy. I don't understand that. And you know, we've seen the last I think we've seen Abomination was in She-Hulk, so you know he's able to control it, but I don't think we need him. I don't know. And then there's been talk of like maybe, you know, they'll add Bullseye to the team. I mean, I don't know. It only in the fact that it would be good to have the crossover appeal from the TV show, you know, to acknowledge that they exist in the same universe, because it seems like too often they don't play together. And you know, he has redeemed himself, but I don't know. Do we need him? Maybe. I don't know. Disney Plus apparently, this is news to me, unless I just totally missed it, but I guess they were going to reboot Power Rangers. Because, you know, they've been, I guess, you know, they're open to other people's IPs, which is nice. You know, it doesn't always have to be their stuff. Because, you know, they'll make money off it, and, you know, maybe they have to share it or, you know, do whatever, pay something. It seems like, you know, Power Rangers, if done well, that could be like a no-brainer. You know, people seem to love it. You know, how many different versions were there? But unfortunately, it looks like they're dropping it, because I guess it's going to end up being, it's going to be too expensive. That seems weird when you look at the old ones, but you know, maybe they didn't want to do just, you know, some little cheapo version. So in order to do it right, it would have cost too much. I don't know. We'll see. Someone mentioned, I don't know if it was Donna Freya, that with Daredevil Born Again, that there's going to be a 6-month gap between the second and third season. I want to know is, I'm sure maybe it's clear, but where does Daredevil Born Again Season 2 fit in with Spider-Man Brand New Day? Because, you know, where was Spider-Man during Daredevil? I don't know. And then I guess the last bit of news, so I'm saving this for last because it's a little spoilery, not really, but you know, maybe you've already seen it. The first 5 minutes of Lanterns was posted online. It was posted on YouTube. So it's officially out. And as I said, by the time you listen to this, most likely the first episode is already out or will be out. So cover your ears for a few seconds or whatever. I'm just going to describe what the first 5 minutes was. And there's a little bit of controversy, apparently. So the clip, whether it's the beginning of the show, I mean, they're saying it's the first 5 minutes. It starts off in 1996. And then, or apparently Green Lantern has been active since 1996. And then I guess it jumps to 2016. That doesn't seem right. Maybe it's 2006. I think it goes 1996 to 2006. That would make more sense. And Green Lantern's doing an interview, and he decides to reveal himself. He's like, my name is Hal Jordan. I don't know why he would do that. Maybe, you know, we'll find out more of that. But he reveals his identity. Jon Stewart's like watching with his brothers and everything, and they're like keeping a lookout because, you know, their dad's gonna come home. I guess they're not supposed to be watching TV at night, or I don't know what it is. And the news reports talking about Hal's dad, and you know he was a pilot, and you know the crash, and how, you know, it happened when Hal was a kid. And one thing that I like what he said, because Hal mentions once a kid loses a parent, there's nothing to fear anymore, and that's the whole thing about not having fear and that. So then when John's dad does come home, I think he kind of figured that he was watching whatever, but then he makes him go outside and he has him stand against a wall with an apple on his head, and he pulls out a gun because his dad might have been in the service or something like that. And he's like, "Are you afraid?" And little John kid, he's like, "No, sir," and then he shoots. So it's kind of crazy. But what's the controversy? Apparently, because they on a news interview thing, they referred to Hal Jordan as Earth's first Green Lantern, and so a lot of people are upset about this because they're like, oh, so Alan Scott doesn't exist, or erasing him, or retconning him, and all this stuff like that. I get that Alan Scott has his fans. I am not knocking that at all. I feel like a lot of these people complaining about it, I feel like they're not that big of fans. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like where are all the Alan Scott fans? Because they've done different things to Alan Scott. You hear a couple of people like upset with that because and they are rightfully so, because if this is their beloved favorite character and then they decide to do this or decide to do this, so it would be upsetting or concerning. But even if this is the case, it doesn't mean that they're retconning Alan Scott. The other thing is, it is a cinematic universe. It's a different thing. For all we know, the Justice Society doesn't exist. Or maybe something happened and everyone forgot about it, because there's like the whole thing with Wonder Woman being in the Justice Society where people didn't really remember. It's a weird thing, and maybe he operated and didn't have like a press agent, so maybe people didn't necessarily know he was called Green Lantern. And then the fact that he is not like official Green Lantern with like the Green Lantern Corps. It's a different Green Lantern. And I know they've kind of made some connections, but I think what it comes down to, no, that's not. They tried, I think at one point they tried like retconning some sort of connection, but it's like, no, there's no connection between the two. And isn't he calling himself Sentinel, or what, didn't he for a while? So I don't know. I feel like people just being angry just to complain, like they don't care about anything. They're doing what they want. It's like, when was the last time you actually read people complain about stuff that they do and they're not even reading comics? I don't know. What I do know is there are going to be more podcasts, but that is the news for the week. Okay, with comic books, I tried reading a comic from Boom Studio, and the reason I was going to read this is, one, it was a number one, and Mike Choi on his Instagram, I think he mentioned that he bought a couple copies of it. I think it might have been like 3 copies of this, and it was interesting. He's talking about is when he was picking up the comics, he was looking for like the most beat up like copy on the rack, maybe with, and they were all in pretty good condition, but there's one that maybe had a little tiny bend, and he wanted that, so that could be like his reading copy, and so he didn't have to worry or feel bad or whatever. He can just like read it, and so it's an interesting idea. And he says he's not really like a speculator or whatever like that, but because he's friends with the creators on this book or whatever, and so forth. So this is written by Marguerite Bennett. And she's super cool. I haven't talked to her in the longest time, but I've interviewed her, a couple times. I've interviewed her a few times, way back, maybe like 2000, after 2011, 2012, 13, somewhere around there. She's always been super cool. She's super talented. I have a lot of respect for her, and I'm so glad she's got her own book coming out. It's illustrated by Helena Macelis, colored by Nisha Singh, and lettered by Jody Troutman. So it's called Gastronomique. I didn't really know anything about this. I don't know if there's something about it's a weird book. And as I was reading this, One problem what's the one big problem I have? This is kind of like an old timey book. It's taking place in a olden era. So I don't know what it is about it. Something like that. It just like puts like a filter in front of my face, and it's like a ADD, ADHD filter, whatever. It's just hard for me to just focus and concentrate on when it's like old timey. I just have this weakness against it. So we have this, and I felt like I was like, wait, what's going on? And there's some times where the lettering, the font, or the choice of lettering style, it was a little hard to read for me, my old eyes or whatever. But I was reading it, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So it might not be for me. It's a cool looking comic and everything. And as I often say, I love when we get we have books that are not like your traditional, everything that's on the shelves. Not knocking Batman or X-Men. So many times we just get spin-offs of the same thing. All these, reading like the Superman big event, there's so many Superman related characters. It's like it's too much of it's all the same thing. So I love when the smaller publishers do their own stuff like this, and it's just totally different, because not everyone wants that, and even the people that do want that, they might want something different. So look into this, see what it's about, and check it out, because it's always great to support the other publishers in that. And I wish I read more of the other stuff, but there's so many times like I don't know what's out there. I miss stuff, and because with Image, what came out this week was $1 Trillion Kid #2. And so this is #2. I really like the first one. But then in the Rockefellers, it was a couple weeks ago, because this one right here, this is part 4 of this, like, the Impossibles, like, crossover. I'm looking at it, I was like, wait, how's this part 4? I was like, because I read $1 Trillion Kid, that was probably part 1, right? And I read the Rockefellers, and I remember when I was reading the Rockefellers, I'm like, who are these two other people? Who is this like angel and devil kids? And this is the crazy discovery that I made. I don't know how I missed it, but these because reading $1 Trillion Kid, this is part 4 of 4, and when they mentioned them, I was like, who are they? So there's actually been a Hornsby and Halo comic, and I think there's 2 volumes that are out, like 2 trades, and I think it's like, I don't know if it's like issue 16 or something like that. The first issue came out, what was it? I think it was November 27th, 2024, and it's how did I miss this? Because it's Ghost Machine. It's written by Peter J. Tomasi and Peter Snijberg. And because when I look at this cover, I'm like, did I see this? Did I notice this? Why did I not read it? I feel like maybe I did. Either I read this and totally forgot about it and didn't keep up with it, or maybe they were in a preview or something like that, because they look kind of familiar. But yeah, so I have some catching up to do, because it was so crazy when I was like, who are these 2 kids that $1 Trillion Kid Tommy was like teaming up with? So issue part 4, I'm not going to give anything away, but it was good. I mean, considering I missed part 2 apparently. I enjoyed that crossover. So I just love these characters. And this is the other thing, was like what I was saying before, is that this is something different. So I just love what they're doing, and with Jeff Johns and everyone is, doing their own characters in its own little shared universe. It's like really cool. We have the Orc #7. I'm behind on that. And as much fun as it is, it's still the old-timey stuff. So that's another reason it makes it harder for me. Like, maybe I should get caught up. I don't know if I will. So we have that. Of the Earth #4, man, I don't think I read 3. Actually, I don't know if I've read any of that. No, I take that back. This is Chris. Wait, did I read any of it? I don't know. I can't keep track of this. Witchblade 24 came out. I don't think I read anything else at Image. Oh, no, I take that back. There was also Transformers 35. 35? Oh my gosh, I'm so behind on that. But there is G.I. Joe Real American Hero 331. This was a pretty good... When I saw this, I was like, oh man, did I read the last issue? And yes, I did, because this is continuing the Snake Eyes brainwash, turning with programming, whatever stuff. So yeah, so it's like fighting the ninjas who are turning on G.I. Joe. And I just have to say, man, Paul Pelletier, dang man, his art is just so good. I just love the way. I love the way he draws characters and everything, and just the way he draws the G.I. Joe characters, so good. It's I mean, am I missing him when people are talking about how good he is? Oh, it's just so good. And then there is Exquisite Corpses, Rascal Randy #2. I didn't read the first one, and I still need to get caught up on Exquisite Corpses. So I missed all that. So that was like the regular or the non-Marvel DC stuff. At Marvel, there was the Amazing Spider-Man Spider-Versity #5. Long or summary short, not really. Spider-Girl, Maika, or whatever her name is, she got infected. I don't know. Did she get infected by Carnage or a piece of Carnage? Because I feel like they captured Carnage, but there's a little glob that escaped. So was that all of maybe that was all? I don't know if that's all of Carnage or part of Carnage. So she was infected, and then Norman's he's like no, he's like, remember me? Because Norman became the Red Goblin for a bit. So he basically like put himself up. He's like, you want to be with me because he's got the Goblin serum and all that. But basically he's doing that to get Carnage away from Spider-Girl, and also the fact that Spider-Girl is very amped up with her ability to mimic people's powers or however that works. So then the team, they have to fight the Red Goblin. And this really puts their training to the test. And this is what Norman's been wanting. He's like, if I ever turn evil, I want you guys to be able to stop me and defeat me. But he wasn't talking about defeating him as a Red Goblin. He's talking about it as a Green Goblin. So this kind of changes things a bit. And it was good. I believe this is the last issue, but then the last 2 pages, even though I don't want to give anything away, but you'll probably maybe be able to figure it out if you're on top of things. One of the characters here is getting a new book, and I didn't read like the full press release on that, but it seems like it was a little darker. What we see in the last couple of pages here really explains why it's going to be a lot darker and so even though I saw I glimpsed at the cover, I knew there's something coming. I wasn't expecting it here, so I was like, what? So that's it's going to be interesting. We'll see what they do with that. Okay, there is Doctor Strange #9. I'm still not reading that. Generation X23. What I find funny about this is Laura and Gabby, they rescued all these kids, and they're staying at one of Wolverine's safe houses. And then who shows up? Wolverine shows up because it's his safe house. And as they're talking about like the kids want to go back to the facility because they want to know more about their past and how they're created and whatever and stuff like that. So they're like, okay, we'll go back and everything. And Wolverine's like, all right, we got to do, and he just like automatically invites himself, even though when he arrives there, he just like crashes on the couch, and he's like, because I think this is taking place. I mean, it has to be taking place a few issues in his current comic, because he mentions going to Cecilia Reyes to have her check him out. So I think at this point he hasn't been checked out yet. So it's a weird, trying to figure out where exactly this line up. But it's good. I just really like Laura, and there's some cool. I do like seeing Laura and Wolverine working together, because I feel like, she is supposed to be kind of like his daughter, and I feel like he kind of neglects her, and he's always taking other young characters under his wing, but he like ignores his own actual kids. So it's just it's kind of crappy. So it's kind of good, and Gabby is just just super adorable and everything here. So. And some of the other kids are growing on me a little bit. I'm not super invested, and if after the next issue we never see them again, that's fine. I'm not wishing for them to be killed off or anything, but I don't need to read comics with them, but wish them the best of luck, right? Infernal Hulk number 10. It's okay. We're hoping. I'm including myself with Banner, trying to get the Banner a Hulk body so he can stop this Infernal Hulk and everything. It's just like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And then stuff with that girl, I think her name is Charlie. We'll see what's happening. But I'm not. And I think people are digging it. I'm not. And I hope they are enjoying it. Oh man, I just realized I didn't read Jeff the Landshark Superstar issue 2, so I should check that out. I don't know what it is. I really like Jeff the Landshark. It's a little too cutesy in these comics, but I can appreciate that. There's a Jeff the Landshark action figure coming out, and I have it on pre-order, and I'm debating, is like, do I really need a Marvel Legends Jeff the Landshark action figure? And I was like, maybe I should just cancel it, because I ordered off of Amazon. So, I can easily cancel it. And it's not like, ordering it from a, little mom and pop shop who's expecting, me to buy it, whatever. I probably will keep it, but it's like, do I really need it? I don't really need action figures anymore, but I guess I always put it in my classroom. We'll see. But issue 2 came out, so I should read that because it's cute. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 1. I read this. This is the first. It might have been the first comic. I read this before Spider-Verse. As I'm reading this, I was like, Miles he's back at school, and I'm like, what about? Aren't they like living at the university, the Spider-Versity, whatever? And now he's back at school, and I thought Genki like kind of slimmed a little bit. Because now he's looking a little more like his old ways. But what really, really annoys me, and I don't know if I'm just misremembering or whatever, but at one point, because so basically there's a new student in Miles' class, super smart, and I think Miles was like her lab partner or something like that, and she's like, oh, she's like very upfront. She's like, you like me, don't you? You want to ask me out or something like that. And she's like, find a place where we can have tea. It's like that. So he wants to find a super cool hip place, but what does he do? He asks Genki to find a super cool hip place that doesn't cost a lot of money. So he's going to take her to try to impress her, and also already he's like lying to her, because it's not like, hey, yeah, I found this place. No, he had someone look for it for him or find a place, which is like this. I don't know, but what Genki, he mentions, he's like, well, I am the guy in the chair, right? And I was like, that's what Ned Leeds says in the movies, which is like whatever, let's not even go there. But I was like, I don't think Genki, spoiler that he says that, not really, but I was like, I don't remember Genki ever saying that. I was like, has he ever said in the comic? And then they started using the movie or what? So I did a Google whatever search, and according to the search, it could totally be wrong. I was like, has Genki ever said, I'm the guy in the chair in the comics? And the result that came up, they're like, no, he has never said in the comics. But Ned Leeds, who Genki, who is kind of based off of Genki, would set it and blah blah blah. So it's just like if it just really annoys me if he's never said it in the comics, and if they put that line in there because they're trying to associate it or whatever with the movie, that really ticks me off. And it's such a silly thing to get upset about, but it's just, you can't do that. I don't know. Punisher number 7. So we got this guy. He's got like a mad beef with Punisher. He's also got these crazy bullets. He can control these bullets. He can shoot a gun. It can like kill someone, go through them, circle around, kill someone else, turn, go get someone else. It's just like an unlimited like bullet. He can just do whatever he wants, and he can control it and everything like that. And at first it's like, oh, that person deserves it. But then like it's like random, like innocent bystanders getting killed. So Punisher's like, I gotta stop this guy. But the thing is, this guy has this big hatred for Frank, and we find out why here, because I don't think we knew before. And it's just like, what's Frank gonna do? And yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Queen in Black, Thor number 1. So this is with Sigurd, what's his name? And I am not enjoying these Queen in Black comics. I mean, I didn't read King in Black. I skipped those. It's like, I don't even know what happened. All of a sudden, Eddie Brock is like controlling all the. I was like, how did that happen? Because I skipped all those. So, yeah. She's like testing him, and it's just, I don't know. Star Wars: The Fall of Kylo Ren, number 1. So I read this, and my problem was, I don't know where this lines up in terms of the movies. I kind of don't remember what happened to Ben at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. I could be wrong. Did he like perish? Is that why we were going to potentially get the Search for Ben Solo movie that ended up getting scrapped? So reading this, I was like, I don't know when this takes place. And I know it's probably should be super obvious, but not for me. I guess So I read it. It was fine. There's a lot of bickering with the First Order, like who's going to be in charge, or who's Kylo's number 1 and stuff like that. Then we got Queen in Black, Venom, number 260. So this was kind of weird, because there's a lot of like overlap or like stuff that we already saw in the main Queen in Black. So it's like, that's kind of annoying because I already read it, but it's good if you haven't read those issues, you know what's going on. But there's a lot of stuff with like Dylan, and just like the anger and frustration and confusion that he's dealing with, with his father and with everything like that. So there's some good whatever stuff there. But yeah, I just don't care about this story. And it's like, what the heck is Hela? What does she want? Wolverine number 25. It's an interesting cover. But he's found the person responsible for the loss of his healing factor, and there could potentially be a way to reverse it so he can get his healing factor back. He's about to, and then Alpha Flight attacks and messes things up. And the new Vindicator, I'm like, who the heck is that? Because I was like, that's not Heather Hudson. Her name's Arsenault or something like that. I'm like, who the heck is this? What's her connection to anything? Because, they call her Arsenault. So I did a search, and I guess her real name's not known. And yeah, so I'm not going to say anything. Does Wolverine get his powers back? Maybe. Did Alpha Flight ruin it? Maybe. So you can find out. There's X-Men 97 number 3. I'm not reading that, especially because it looks like they're just adapting the episodes, right? Because it's X-Men with Ensaba Noor. It's like, I'm not going to read that. X-Men 35. This is interesting because it's a lot of like Beast, Hank, kind of coming to terms with the fact that the leader of 3K or whatever is Dark Beast, or not Dark Beast, but a different. How many versions of Beast are there? And he goes to talk to someone. It's like, how do you deal with this? And then there's some, because it also says it's a DNX prologue. I'm not really sure what DNX is. I saw the cover to one of them. Like, that's an interesting cover. But yeah, so I don't care for this 3K stuff and their version of the X-Men. But I guess, you need the villains to make the stories, whatever. X-Men United #6. So this is with all the X-Men and the Mindscape stuff. So I was like trying to read this, and there's like so many characters and all this stuff's happening. And then, because I haven't been reading it, and they're like, oh, Shadow King. And I'm like, oh, I hate him. And that's why I haven't been reading it. So yeah, just crazy stuff happening there. I don't know. Yeah. And it's just so weird how it's its own thing almost. Like it's not really lining up with the other books. I don't know. Over at DC, we had Absolute Batman, #23. And Batman is so angry because, he's all his buddies who are basically his rogues gallery, they try talking to him, and he's like, leave me alone. This is my thing. And they're like, dude, we're here to help you. But, because we got Oswald, we got the Penguin, we got Riddler, we got Harvey Dent, Wayland, Killer Croc. Is that all of them? And then Bruce's mom. So it's like all these people know that Bruce is Batman. And, they're all questionable. And, because like his friends have all been changed. They're all like in their villain disguises, but they're not villains. And, so then Martha's there with Alfred, and he's just so angry. And I just like, what is going on? And then we got stuff with the Robins, because they've been tasked, they're supposed to protect Gotham, but Jason is determined to bring in Batman. He wants to bring him in, and Dick's like, we just went on patrol. It's like, we need to rest up. And he's like, no, I'm going back out there. And then Tim Drake decides to go with them to, because they should be going out as a team or more than one. So then they start fighting, or they find Batman, and he's like, I'm not here to fight. And he puts on his big axe hammer, whatever thing. And then there's like some crows start flying by. He's like, no, you got to get out of here. Because it's that Scarecrow guy. Is he the Joker? I don't even know. And then there's like this big evil Batman fighting, and things get a little ugly. But people are liking that, so hooray. Then what I did is I read Action Comics 1101. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I had no idea. So, okay, General Zod's doing his thing, because it's his story arc. And it's like Lois Lane's captured. I was like, what did I miss? What I missed was I was supposed to have read Supergirl what number was it? Number 16. It clearly states it on the cover that Supergirl is #1 of this thing. I just didn't bother looking at that. I was like, oh, here's Action Comics. It's in front of me next. I'm going to read this. And it's just, well, as I mentioned before, it's too many characters. It's just, I don't care for General Zod, whatever, and his annoyance. And Lois is like, what are you trying to? What's your goal here? What are you trying to do? You're not doing this because he's talking about like ruling. She's like, you're gonna rule Earth, and she's like, that would be like me ruling an ant colony. It's like it's beneath him, and she's like, you're not doing it for Krypton, for the Kryptonians, because they're not here anymore. So it's just, and then there's still the stuff that the fact that Booster, Martian Manhunter, Mary Marvel, and was it Mr. Terrific? But they went to the past to talk to like Superboy, Clark Kent as a kid, and they wanted to take him into the time stream or whatever to see if he'd be like a magnet, so they could find real or older their version of Kal-El. And then they find him, and so now we have Superboy Kal-El and older present day whatever Kal-El. It's just, yeah. But thankfully, Clark Superman, he has to talk to John privately, telepathically, and he's like, all this stuff that you guys, in the past went that, he's like, I don't have, and what's happening now, he's like, I don't have any memories of this. So something must happen that he doesn't remember it, or maybe there's some sort of disruption in time, or I don't know. But he has to forget everything, because it's just, I don't understand a point when they're going through the time stream looking for Superman. They're like, oh yeah, there's your marriage, or oh yeah, hey young Clark, here's this, and it's like basically telling him everything. And they're like, oh, don't look at this, Death of Superman, don't look. Yeah, so you got those two, but Supergirl, you should read Supergirl first, because that picks up with Connor fighting with Superboy Prime, because he's mad at him and stuff like that, and then Kara, her friends, her super team, whatever she calls them, and then it's like they switch to art halfway. I'm like, wait, what is happening? The art, it's like, it was interesting, and it was just change, and it was like too much, and it was very, very distracting. And I think that's all I read. Oh, no. I read more. There was a Barbara Gordon breakout. I forget if this is number 4. She's in the Supermax jail, and not a whole. I mean, some stuff happens here, but yeah, we'll see. And I'm just finding it annoying because Vandal Savage, for whatever stupid reason, he's a commissioner, the police commissioner, and it's like, really, you got nothing to do. You're going to be a police commissioner of Gotham City. They're basically locking up anyone who is opposing him or doing stuff. So it's just, got all that. Then there was a Batman and Robin Year One dynamic duos. So this is Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, and this is just so delightful. It's Year One, or it's way back, and it's so refreshing because Alfred's there. Dick Grayson is a kid. He's like a little annoying, smart-ass Robin kid, which is just kind of like cool. And because I feel like too often, Dick Grayson was a great Robin and everything, and Nightwing, I love him, but it's almost like he matured too quickly. So here, he's having fun being Robin, and he's a circus boy, and so it's just really nice, to see that, and there's some interesting stuff here. And that, I believe, is all I read. So there's Nice House by the Sea. I'm so behind in that. There's Firestorm, or Fury of Firestorm, Emperor Aquaman, Green Lantern Corps, Clayface Celebrity Dirt, and then Bleeding Hearts. That is it. That's everything I did not read from DC. That is going to be comic books for the week. All right, My Adventures with Superman, Season 3, Episode 9. I don't know how you say this. Victus, VAE space VICTIS, which apparently is a Latin phrase, I looked this up, that means woe to the vanquished, or woe to the conquered. All right, so continuing, this is interesting, the way things are progressing and what's going on. I when I look at these shows, I often get distracted and think about the beyond, because I'm hoping that this show I would love, when you're watching a show, you want it to continue for as long as possible, especially with the animated shows. The problem with the animated shows, I feel like we're lucky if we get a handful of seasons. We're lucky if we get more than 2 or 3. I would love for this to continue. When you're talking about like comic related shows, There's so much history, so many stories that they can adapt. So if it's ever a matter of the writers are like, well, we don't know what we should do. They have so much inspiration, that, so much content history that they can draw from. And sometimes what worries me or concerns me when you see some shows, they'll take on too many different elements, like plot elements at once. It's like you're fast tracking decades of whatever, of stories, of content. I feel like that's kind of like what X-Men 97 is. They're by putting characters like Quentin Quire in the 90s. Was he around in? I don't remember when he debuted. I'm not going to look it up. But I feel like they bring in a couple other elements into that time era. And it might be because, you never know. You do a season. When you're working on a show, I mean, unless you're lucky and you get it's automatically renewed for a second season or 3 seasons or whatever, you don't always know how much time, whatever space you're going to have to tell your story. So sometimes you're like, well, we really want to cover this, so we need to make sure we do this because we might not get the chance, and that could and that's the problem, because that could potentially harm that story idea if it's too fast, if it doesn't have time to fully develop. So I don't know. I mean, when you look at like everything that's being sent up by having the kids from the future, and I know I'm rambling way too much, but maybe this is what you'd prefer to hear. I don't know. I feel like by bringing in these future elements, it's like they're going really fast. It started off where like Lois didn't even know who Clark was, and then they're dating and she knows. And let's say the fact they sort of did like the death of Superman, but they didn't. So they can't really do that story, because you already have Cyborg Superman and you sort of have Superboy, even though it wasn't Connor. It feels like they're going fast because they want to cover a lot, and then that might be like, well, if we're in season 7, then what do you do? And that would probably be a great problem to have. Have to worry about that after 7 seasons, and who knows if they'd even want to do it. But yeah, so that's my concern. And they're with this one, I have to say, as I was watching this episode, there's a lot about Clark trying to get his powers. He goes back to the Fortress of Solitude, and as we saw last episode, those Kryptonian robot servant things, they all kind of ganged up on him. So it's like, what's going on? But we find out more about his loss of powers, and I don't agree with it. It kind of bothers me, and I don't know if we're going to find out to know that's not the case. But the way it seems is he would have used up all his powers when he was fighting Hank Henshaw, and now he's depleted. It's been 3 months. My theory is like he just needs to stock up on powers. He needs to lay out in the sun or whatever, and just re-energize or whatever. But because it's been 3 months and he did catch that big hunk of debris that was going to fall on Lois. So he does have something there. The fact that he could catch that and it didn't squash him. But what is explained here, it's like, it doesn't work that way. That doesn't, when we get to it, I'll bring it up. So let's get started. He's like standing, at first he's like, is he shirtless? I hope he's not naked, not that it matters, but he's in front of like this miniature sun, which that right there didn't make sense, because then it cuts to him like opening his eyes. So maybe that was like a vision or a dream or something like that. But then he opens his eyes, there's his glasses on the floor, the robot servants are like floating above. He's like, what happened? Where are we? And he's kneeling, and he's kind of tied up. He's bound by 2. I don't know if they're energy binds or whatever. He's got his arms are behind him. And then Bizarro, he seems to be frozen. His eyes are red, and he's just like standing back, and he's like dressed in all black or whatever. And Clark's like, "What have you done to him?" And then the lead robot's like, "We made him what he was meant to be. Why have you returned to us in your failure, Kal-El?" He's like, "You sent me those visions. You called me back here to get my powers back." "We did not call you here. Power belongs to conquerors. All you have shown us is weakness." And then Clark's like, "Brainiac." So they took his powers away because he's only shown weakness. It doesn't work like that. It's a Kryptonian physiology, and the yellow sun, the combination brings the powers. The idea that someone could take the powers away, that doesn't make sense. It would be like, what can I say? Like being able to see. If all of a sudden someone's going to flip a switch and I don't have my vision anymore. Or, I mean, that doesn't make sense because that's just something that he can do because he's Kryptonian and he's on a planet with a yellow sun. But then in Superman 2, they took his powers away, right? I don't know. Yes, but we are not the mad, twisted creature you met on Kandor. We are the Brainiac of old Krypton, uncorrupted. And we can give you what you seek. Clark's like, you can restore my powers? We can, and we desire to. But first, you must become who you were meant to be. You must show us you are a conqueror. Clark's like, conqueror? Hurting people doesn't make you strong. And losing your power, your noble birthright, to a mere human? Is that what strength looks like, Kal-El? Do you want these powers or do you not? And then he's like, what do I have to do? You have to learn what strength is. So then, like, a bunch of wind and snow blow. And Clark has, like, a different outfit. His hair is longer. He's got, like, a couple little, like, sort of ponytails. He's got, like, red, like, almost like a red stripe across his face, like a line. But then he's got, like, arms, like, I don't know if they're supposed to be tattoos or whatever, like, on his arm, chest, and leg. And on his chest, it almost makes, like, the S symbol on there. He's like, what? What is this? He has a big sword. He has, like, a cape with kind of, like, big fluffy warmth things on his shoulder, whatever. He has a shield and it looks like a spear, whatever. This is what you came for, Kal-El. Prove to us here in Krypton's ancient past that you are worthy of our power, and we will make you strong again. So we see Jonathan and Lara. They're still in a pit looking down at Kara, but it's like, how much time has passed now between when Clark left, whatever, and they're still there. So they're looking out at Kara. Jimmy's kneeling next to her. Lois comes up. How's Kara? Jimmy's like, she's alive, but she needs real help. I don't know what to do. Lara's like, hey, where's Dad? And Lois is like, Clark? And Waller comes out. Lane, I'm taking command of these new Kryptonian assets. And she's like, assets? They're barely more than children. It's like, there's a monster on the loose. It defeated Supergirl. It's impervious to kryptonite, and no one knows when it's coming back. But when it does, I need your little scout troop taking orders from Uncle Sam. She's like, these kids aren't soldiers. Waller's like, we're living in a post-Superman world, Lane. Catch up. No one is coming to save us. She's like, Supergirl needs an infirmary. Waller's like, I'll go see about a medic. Get those assets in line. I need soldiers. So Clark, in his like Arctic wilderness, where are we? Where you will prove your strength. Your people were once as you are now, primitive, weak, flightless. But when invaders from the stars attacked your ancient ancestors, the first Kryptonians conquered them with no more power than you have now. They took from their enemy the secrets of strength, of flight. They turned their dying star into Rao, the living sun whose offspring now powers your fortress even now. They became Krypton. Why are you telling me all this? Because those invaders are coming, Kal-El, this very night, and you will face them. What? Conquer the invaders. Show us that you have that ancient strength within you, and we will restore your power. Which, again, it's so they decided, click, we're turning your powers off. But this isn't real, is it? Your foes will be as real as you are. If you let them kill you, you will perish. And then he disappears. I don't want to hurt anyone. Then there's a burst in the air and a ship like comes crashing down. He's like, the invaders. So Jimmy's sitting next to Kara lying in an infirmary. Some tents have been set up in a crater outside LexCorp. So Lois goes talk to the kids and she like psychs herself up. She's like, okay, Clark's not here, but you can do this on your own. It's like, they're your kids. So she goes up and she's like, great news. I've spoken with Director Waller and we've got a new plan to stop Eradicator, save the future, and get you two home. And then Jonathan, Mr. Attitude, bratty, whatever. Let me guess. The plan is for us to risk our lives fighting that monster again while you watch? She's like, look, the plan is for everyone to do their part. And he's like, yeah. And how does Dad feel about this plan? Come to think of it, where is he? Lois like, your father's found a way to recover his powers. He's gone to look for them, but he'll be back. And then Johnson's like, we're never enough for you, huh? In every single timeline, your plan is just bring back Dad. Lara, let's get out of here. But it's like, dude, you asked where is he? She tells you, and then you complain. And first you're saying, we're not good enough for you. But when they're first like, have us do all the work. It's like, make up your mind, kid. Lara's like, maybe we should hear Mom out. And Jonathan's like, ugh. It's like, you always take her side. She's not even our real mom. Why listen to her? And Lois like, maybe you should listen to her because your last plan to murder Lex Luthor created an uncontrollable monster that beat Kara unconscious before disappearing into the time stream. Maybe that's why, Jonathan. And then he's like, sorry for saving your life, Mom. Guess I can't do anything right. And she's like, Jonathan, wait, I didn't mean... He zips off. It's like, oh my goodness. Lara's like, Jonathan's always like this. And Lois is like, yeah, because I made him that way. So Clark makes his way to the cliff. He's above the crash ship. He's like, okay, let's get a look at these invaders. He goes down, door opens. 5 aliens with space rifles come out. They got like armored, helmets or whatever. So Clark's like, oh boy. He's like, halt. My warriors have you surrounded. Surrender, or the middle one like raises his rifle and he points it at Clark. The rest do the same. They start shooting. He raises his shield, which thankfully blocks the lasers, doesn't just penetrate and go through him or whatever. One of the lasers ricochets back, takes out an alien. The middle one orders the other 3 to move forward. One with has some sort of energy, stun baton. He leaps high to strike down Clark, but he moves. He charges at another, knocks him down with his shield, just kind of elbows him, whatever, with his shoulder, whatever. The third tries using a baton, but Clark ducks. He drives the shield against him. This one, he gets knocked back. He flies back. The last one starts shooting again. So Clark raises his shield and he runs. The alien can, I think, teleport. He jumps down with the baton, but Clark uses a sword to block, and he's getting pushed back towards a ravine. He notices that he's at the edge, and they're pushing each other or whatever. His eyes start to flicker, and then they start to grow red. He lifts his right leg, kicks the alien back. Clark charges. He's crackling with the red energy now. He swings his sword up. He knocks a baton out of the alien's hand. He holds the sword down towards the alien, and there's red electrical energy all over him. Then it snaps off. He's like, what? Because he's about to kill him, but then he snaps out of it. And the alien takes advantage of distraction. He gets up, tackles Clark. They both go flying into the ravine, and Clark's sword is knocked out of his hand. They fall into blackness. In one of the tents, Lois talks to Lara. She's like, okay, Clark's still gone, John has disappeared, and a time-traveling monster is coming to kill us. And Lara's eating a hot dog. Lois is like, which of those problems would you like to tackle first? And Lara's like, wait, aren't you supposed to know? Lois is like, I thought I did before I ruined everything and chased your brother away. Lara's like, I can't make this kind of decision. I'll screw it up. And she hugs her knees to her chest. Lois sits next to her. She's like, Lara, this is your life. Whether we work with Waller or not, you have a say in this. We can figure it out together, but we can't do that unless you trust yourself. And she takes out her father's compass and holds it out. She's like, here, trust yourself. Lara's like, look at that. She takes off, she has a compass on a necklace. And I guess it's supposed to be, it looks smaller, but when she holds it out, next to the other one, it looks the same size. And Lois is like, what? How do you have? And Lara's like, you gave me the same pep talk before I left on this mission. And she gives Lois a hug. It's and almost the same compass. So Lois is like, future Lois, your mom, she said the same things I did? And Lara laughs, pretty much, but with more stuff about how you and Grandpa never got along. And Lois is like, well, Dad and I are too much alike, huh? It's like, who else could use a hot dog? So Kara's lying in the bed. Then she grits her teeth and groans. And she sits up. She's like, no. Jimmy's sleeping, slumped over on the bed. And Kara's like, I lost. And she sees him. She's like, Jimmy Flamebird? He slowly wakes up and he sees her. He gasps, Kara, you're okay. He gives her a big hug. He's like, this is great. And she's like, I am indeed conscious. Huh, what a coincidence that you would be here when I woke up. Lois and Lara come in. Lois, she's holding 2 hot dogs, and she's like, he's been here the whole time. And Kara's like, why did you not leave the tent? And Jamie's like, because you were here, and I'm not going to leave you alone again. And there's loud grumble from Kara's stomach. And she's like, oh, thank you, Lois Lane. Chomp, chomp. She takes a bite of the 2 hot dogs. And Lois like, anytime. How recovered do you feel? And Kara's like, oh, I am ready to fight. Lois like, great. How about instead of fighting, you have a word with John? And Kara's like, are you unable to parent him yourself, Lois Lane? And she's like, that's exactly it. Actually, I can't do this all alone. And she's like, Kara's like, and is Kal-El unable to assist you? So she doesn't say anything. So we see Clark's like lying on a table. His eyes are completely red. He lets out a groan. A Bizarro, he groans a little too, and a robot tells him to like be still. In the simulation, whatever, Clark opens his eyes. There's like an overhead shot. He's lying at the bottom of the ravine. You know, his spear, sword, and shield are close by. There's no sign of the alien. He sits up. He's like, I gotta stop waking up like this. But the alien's actually like behind a rock, like a little ways away. He gets up. He's like holding his arm in pain, and he takes off his helmet. He has green skin, like pointy ears. He like lets out a breath, and then he looks like there's almost like a look of fear because he sees Clark, and then anger. He picks up a big rock. He says something in his language, and Clark's like, wait. It like thrusts down the rock. Clark rolls out of the way. The alien picks up Clark's sword and charges. Clark moves back. He gets like a cut on his chest or something like that, and then he bends over in pain. Then his eyes go red. The alien charges again. There's energy crackling, from Clark's eyes and everything. He drives his shoulder into the alien, knocking him back, causing him to drop the sword. Clark picks up the sword, and then the alien starts to get up, and Clark holds him back down, raises the sword in his other hand, and he yells. And then the alien he's like sweating in fear or whatever. Then Clark like shakes off. He's like, "What was I?" And then the alien sits up and like holds his arm again, and Clark's like, "Your arm." He approaches, and the alien tries to like scoot you back. And Clark's like, hold still. And we can't see what he's doing, but he uses a sword as like a splint, and he ties it around the alien's arm. He's like, no more fighting. I am your friend. Friend. And the alien's like, friend? And he takes Clark's like outstretched hand. Jonathan flies to the moon. He throws like a stone, and it goes around the moon and like lands behind him. And then, he picks up another one or whatever, throws in the opposite direction, but then Clara catches it behind him. Hello, Jonathan Lane. Are you playing Moon Catch? He's like, leave me alone. He flies up. She follows. It is better to talk than to run. You will not be able to escape me. He's like, what do you want? And he like tosses a rock at her. She easily catches it. It's like, did he mean to hit her, or did he know? I mean, I guess he knew she'd catch it. Maybe. She's like, I want to know why you're on the moon and why you are angry at me, who saved your life. And she tosses the rock back. He catches it. He's like, I'm not angry at you, Aunt Kara. I went off mission. I let Lara leave by herself. I let Eradicator escape. I tried this before. I failed. I'm failing again. That's why everyone always wishes I was my perfect dad, because who wants me? He throws a rock hard. Kara catches it with both hands, and it's like glowing. And she's like, you are mistaken. Your father is not perfect. Lois Lane and the others imagine that he is perfect because even in failure, he will not give up on them. And I will not give up on you. So she sets like the rock in his hand instead of throwing it. And then she's like, they need us. And he's like, oh. Back at the camp, Lois is surprised when they return. She's like, Jonathan, you came back. And he kind of like bows his head. Kara's like, Jonathan has returned to help us defeat the Eradicator. And he's like, I won't take orders from you or Amanda Waller, and I'll prove to you that I can do this myself. Lois goes up to him and just throws her arms around him. And he's kind of surprised. She's like, I'm just glad you're back. Wilson comes towards him. I hope your little super teens are ready for a fight. Lex has found a temporal anomaly. Time travel. So Clark and the alien, they're climbing up the cliff or whatever. It's like windy and snowy. The alien is using the spear as like a walking stick. He starts to stumble, and Clark's like, whoa. He's like, I got you, buddy. He's like, you need to rest. So they rest in this like cave. There's a big fire. Alien's like leaning back against a rock, has Clark's cloak, covering him. Some sort of critter runs by. We see something in the shadows. Clark's like, we'll get you back to your ship. He's like, I need to get home to my people too. Then he sees the beast over the alien's shoulder. He's like, look out. Chomp. It chomps down on the alien's shoulder. And he's like, ah. And Clark's like, no. It pulls him outside. And then it just like, shakes him and throws him on the ground. And it rears up. But Clark comes, running out, knocks it back. The beast like swats Clark aside and it jumps to attack him. But then he like struggles to push it back. So they're on the edge of a cliff, of course. And Clark's like, I can't die here. He starts to glow. He's crackling with red energy. He's like, ah! He lifts the beast and tosses it over the cliff. He lets out another yell and falls to his knees. He's like, what's happening to me? So he checks on the alien. He's unconscious. He has big, teeth marks on his shoulders. And Clark checks for a pulse. And he's like, no. Puts him on his shoulder. He's like, stay with me, buddy. He's like, we can make it home. But he didn't get his cape or his cloak. The others are, they're taken to like secret base in like an army truck. A man, the Kryptonians, they're flying, Kara, Jonathan, and Lara. Amanda's like telling Lois and Jimmy, and it's like, this is a site of Zero Day, the first alien attack on American soil. It's now Area Zero, a checkmate command post. So Kara, Jonathan, and Lara, they land next to the truck. Jimmy asks, the Eradicator is coming here? And Amanda's like, unless Luther is wasting all our time. And Lex like, the data doesn't lie. Something is coming, and we have less than 48 hours to prepare for it. So Amanda dresses like a squad of soldiers in a big hangar. This operation, codenamed Doomsday, will have 2 lines of defense. The first line will be the superhuman, led by Agent Wilson. Kryptonians fall in line. And Lois like, Jonathan and Lara will fight, but they'll take their orders from Supergirl. Amanda's like, who decided this? And Kara's like, we did, together. Is there a problem? And Amanda's like, of course not. Glad to have you. Let's hope you're as super as you think you are. So we see tanks are ready, like some dude arrives, and I don't know who this guy was. He was this big dude. He like waves hello, and later he's like making weapons. I'm sure, I just don't remember. Kara's like training with the kids. The big dude, he's like hammering like a weapon, like a sword or something like that. Then we see Saban, is she Silver Banshee, right? Saban and Heatwave arrive. Lois gives like Saban a big hug, and she kind of looks annoyed, but she like pats Lois on the head. Lex, he's like watching from behind the corner of a tent. And then, I don't know if they're the big Brainiac robots or there's some big robot things like marching behind him. There's like a bunch of them. Waller goes over like plans with like the superhumans, whatever, and Wilson. Kryptonians are expiring in the sky. And then the big dude, he made this big sword for Jonathan and like a spear with like a big thing, whatever, at the end for Lara. Jimmy, he's keeping an eye on Lex. At first I was like, is he like kind of bummed because he doesn't have anything to do? But like he's watching Lex. Because then at night, later, Lex sneaks out of the tent and Jimmy's there waiting. Are you really running away again? And Lex is like, I know when to get off a sinking ship. And Jimmy's like, what? This is your ship. You have to face the problems you created. And he's like, me? The Kryptonians did this. And Jimmy's like, you made the monster. You set it free. And then Lex is like, what am I supposed to do? Just let the aliens rule over us? And Jimmy's like, I get why you're scared. I'm human too. But those aliens have been paying for your mistakes, Lex. It's time to act like the hero you pretend to be. Or admit you're the villain. And then Lex kind of like thinks about that. In the simulation, Clark's still carrying the alien. They reach the ship, and 3 other aliens with rifles see them and start like running towards them. Clark sets them down, and he raises his hand. He's like, I'm not here to fight. They say something, and he's like, please, your friend needs help. Then he hears like a baby or something like that, and there's like an alien lady like holding one. Others, they sort of made like makeshift shelters or whatever, and there's like a fire going, and they're all like looking at Clark. He's like, you people aren't invaders. You're refugees. He's like, wait, no, please. I don't want to hurt you. One takes out like a stun baton, so Clark has to like take out his shield. He's like, no, I have to get home. He grabs his spear in the other hand, and like the refugees gasp. He's like, don't make me do this. His eyes glow red, but then he like pushes it down. And then you hear, do it. Brainiac's like floating above them. He's like, no. They already died once. What's the harm in killing them again? Show us your strength. and Brainiac like glows red, and Clark's powers like kicked in, and he's like struggling. He steps towards the alien. Yes. He's like, no. He throws his shield and spear down. I won't murder these people just to satisfy you. That's not what strength is. Then you will perish here, and your family's hope will die with you. The aliens still have their rifles pointed at Clark. And then the alien voice like says something, and then the three lower their rifles. The injured one that Clark brought is like talking to them. And then Brainiac's like, no. Clark helps him up, and he's like, thank you. The three put their rifles away. No. And Clark's like, enough, Brainiac. I've won your game. We offer you power, and you reject it? So the simulation wipes away, and he's back at the fortress. You can perish in your weakness. At the camp, tanks and soldiers are all set up. Because there's like this big crater where 0 Day happened or whatever, so they're all lined up outside of it. Amanda asks, like, where's Luther? Jimmy, he doesn't say anything, even though he kind of knows. And then, I'm here, Director Waller. There's a crackle of energy above the crater, big crackle. And then there's all this energy, whatever, and a hand reaches out. And then there's like a slim being, kind of wearing black. Almost looks like he's wearing like a trench coat. Has like longish hair, a glowing red eye. You were expecting me. I am the being you call Eradicator, and I am here. So Jonathan, he moves, makes a move, and then he slices him in half, like vertically from behind. And there's like a look of anguish, and then two halves like split apart. It's like start like drifting apart. Carlos and Jimmy gasp in surprise, and Jonathan Lance, I told you I'd do it. He's like, we don't need anyone to come save us. But the two halves, they're still like slowly falling, and then one starts twitching and starts like reforming, like out of the split half. Jonathan still has his back to him, and he's like, I said, I am Superman. Bam! He gets like squashed from behind. Lois yells out his names. Fools, you have no Superman to defend you. So this half looks like the one that came out. The other is like bigger and bulkier, like bushier hair. And I am here to make sure you never do. In the fortress, Clark's like, you're invaders. They call me something there at the end. What was it? They called you friend, and that, Kal-El, is why you failed. I defeated their leader. I won them over. I sent you to dominate the Coluans. So now we know who they are. Not befriend them. It is their fate to serve you, as it is always the fate of the weak to serve the strong. The entire trajectory of the Empire is built on that one just principle. So the Coluan, those are the green aliens. I don't remember the pointy ears so much, but is it Brainiac 8? Brainiac something, whatever. And Clark's like, and where did that trajectory end? Where's your empire now? We will not be questioned by a beggar. If the weak do not serve the strong, then what is the order of the universe? What is the purpose of our sacrifice? How have we spent these last 10,000 years? You're the one I carried up on the mountain? Yes, we are the eternal servant of the Empire. But what they did to you? And he puts his hand like on the side of Brainiac's head. I'm so sorry. Enough. You insult our millennia of service with your pretense of mercy, and you will die for it. But it's like, okay, you're saying that you're serving the Kryptonians. He is a Kryptonian. They should be serving him, not questioning him. It doesn't matter what he's doing. They're still servants. So two of the robots, they grab like Superman, kind of like pull his arms back, so it's a little painful. Bizarro's like standing. He's like kind of like fighting back, because he's still just standing there like frozen. He's like, his body's just like locked or whatever. And Clark's like, I have to get back to my family. We tried to teach you, Kal-El. There can be no compromise, only weakness and strength. And then, I don't know if it was Brainiac or if it was just one of the other robots, but it has like big red, I don't remember, whatever. So he has like a blade in his hand, and the ones holding Clark back, they grab him by his like top of his head, his hair, pull his head back, so it's like his throat's just sticking out. So I guess this other robot or Brainiac's just gonna slash his throat. But then Bizarro, he's had like his hands on his head, and he's like, "Ugh," and then punches through the robot's body. Die! And he lets out a big roar. The robots and the Clark, they go flying back from this roar. It's like just a shockwave of it, whatever. And then Clark like looks up and he's like staring in shock. So I don't know if this is the end of this Brainiac. I hope so. But then now that Bizarro's like that, but he says die, and he's been like so friendly, and he should be on Clark's side. But has he evolved, or I don't know. We'll have to find out. So I think there's one more left. But yeah, so there we go. But yeah, the thing that bothers me about this episode is that we took your power away because you don't deserve it. I don't see how that's possible, but what do I know? In this version, I guess it is. Okay, then we have X-Men 97, Season 2, Episode 8, The Dead Man's Hand. So this is continuing. And again, this is, it seems like things are going quickly. So I'm still kind of, I feel kind of dumb where, I mean, maybe I just don't remember how it happened originally. But, you know, the fact that I was like, man, they killed Gambit in the first season. I was like, that's kind of crazy because, you know, Gambit's a popular character. But like, okay. And then Apocalypse brings him back. It's like, okay, oh yeah, that's right. You know, that happened. So we're going there. And then we see Apocalypse might be dead. It's like, wait, is that him? So I don't know is it a trap or whatever. So it starts off, we see, it was like, first there's an island, a big temple, and then they're like fireworks. So it's like, wait, okay, yeah, this is Genosha. Rogue's floating in the ballroom. So this is like back to season 1. And she's like up there dancing by herself. And she looks down, she sees Remy. So she goes down to him, takes like his face in her hands, smooch. And then now they're dancing for real. And the whole room is empty. And he's like, remember, Cher. And then the music stops. And then she like kind of looks at him, he's like purple, like the Death Gambit, whatever. That's what I'm going to call him. And she's like, oh. And he kisses her hand. Some things be deeper than skin. And then the purple starts spreading like on her hand, and like it's like sparking up, and it starts like coming out like on her shoulders and her arms, whatever, and like through her mouth and eyes, and she screams, and then it like explodes or something like that. She wakes up screaming and panting in her bed. So it's like, wait, is she like psychic now? Because, you know, how does she know what he currently looks like, or, you know, will look like the next time she sees him? So then we see the X-Corp building. She was in the X-Corp building. And just to clarify, I don't think I mentioned before, but when they first showed the X-Corp building, I was like, is it only 4 floors? Because it looked like it was like right behind them when they're up on the stage making their announcement. But no, it is way bigger than it must have been like some sort of questionable perspective, whatever. You know, I don't mean to be critiquing or anything like that. But there's like sections. And there's like 10 floors. So maybe, I don't remember how many sections were. If it's 40 floors, it's a lot of floors. It's like, do they really need that many floors, that many buildings? Or that much space? Because then in that big conference room, what are they doing? They're playing cards in there. They're not even using it. What do they do all day? What is their purpose? I don't know. So we see the professor, Kurt, Jean, Scott, Rogue, Hank, you know, playing cards. And Scott accuses Jean's like, I thought we said no powers. And she's like, well, it's not my fault that your tells are so obvious. And the professor tells Kurt, he's like, I'm afraid I have to fold. And Kurt says, that leaves myself on the very quiet Dr. McCoy. So Kurt reveals he has aces over 8. This is why I don't play cards, because I still don't know all the different hands and what. So, you know, he says aces over 8. He has 2 aces, 2 8s, and a 2. Hank's like, the dead man's hand. Fortunately, mine is much livelier. He's like, three threes from your fellow friend in blue. He has 3 3s plus a king and a queen. So I guess that means he wins over 2 aces and 2 8s. I say, I don't know. So Kurt gasps, Gene chuckles. Kurt asks Hank to at least tell him how he broke a streak. And then, this is why it would be so annoying to be Hank's friend. He's like, life is not always a matter of holding good cards, but sometimes playing a poor hand well. Jack London. And it's like, so again, that'd be so annoying if you ask something and you know, the person, the friend, whatever, is just quoting different books or authors or people or whatever. Because even Cyclops agrees. He's like, yeah, save it for the book club. And they all kind of laugh except for Rogue. She sighs, and the professor's like, is everything all right, my child? And it always seems a little creepy. It's like, she's not your child. And I mean, maybe he sees them like, oh, they're his children. He's taking care of them. But isn't this also the dude that had the hots for Jean Grey? I don't know who came up with that. Let's move on. So Jen, right then, an alarm goes off. The lights go, flashing. Shutters close. Rogue's like, "Who pulled the fire alarm?" And the computer panel thing pops up behind him. Hank checks it out. An unidentified military bomber, heavily armed with psionic jammers. And Charles like, I guess on the radio, "Unidentified aircraft. You are trespassing private airspace. Please state your purpose." If it's a bomber and has psionic jammers, don't you think it might be a threat? Considering Genosha was just bombed, or just devastated, and there's no response. The screen's like, "Activate island defenses." So Hank pushes his big button. The whole building starts to like glow, and Hank's like, "Surely only a madman would try and breach our EMP field." So this kind of like big net of energy kind of just like expands out to like the shore of the water. Professor's like, "This is your final warning. Alter course immediately." And then he's like, "Hank, prepare to engage." And Gene's like, "Wait, I can sense a mind through the jammers. Presence drawn to me and Scott?" And then Cable's face appears on the screen. Cyclops like, "Nathan." And Hank's like, "Oh dear." And then Jubilee pops in front of Cable with the peace sign up. "Hi guys, we need help." Cable rolls his eyes like, "We're coming in for a landing." So the big plane lands. The back like loading bay door hatch thing opens. Archangel and Psylocke are standing behind like a big containment tube thing. It's almost like a big Bacta tank, but with the skeletal Apocalypse body in there. Scott and Jean try talking to him as Cable walks by. He's like, "Son." And Jean's like, "Nathan, it's good to see you again." He's like, "Yeah, there's a lot to catch up on. Right now, there's been a murder, and that's not even the bad news." So Jubilee goes up to Rogue. She's like, "Rogue, there's something you need to see." Rogue like sighs and kind of like hugs her arms, like she just got to chill. And Jubilee shows her like the Singe playing card, and then Rogue looks at it. Inside, they stare at the body. Psylocke says, "Apocalypse overestimated his ability to control a horseman who's been resurrected from the grave." And Rogue's looking at the card, and she's like, "So what you're saying is whatever has been brought back might not really be Remy?" Psylocke's like, "We'll know when we find him, which is why we need you, Charles, to use Cerebro to do so." Rogue's like, "No way we're helping you add Gambit to your posse's dirty hit list." And Jubilee's like, "This isn't about killing him. It's about undoing the evil in him." And Archangel's like, "Rogue, years ago, you freed me from Apocalypse corruption." Psylocke's like, "We sneak you in close so you can use your gifts to restore Gambit's soul." And Sunspot's like, "But how do we know his soul is in there to restore?" It's like, dude, you're a part of their plan and you're like questioning it. Whatever. It's like, and he's like wearing a mask, like around over his eyes. It's like, they did not know who he is. It's like, you're wearing a mask. They're only mutants there. It's only the X-Men. Who are you hiding from? Kurt's like, "We have to believe that a part of Gambit endures." Professor's like, "Such questions will have to wait until we've recovered him." And Cable's like, "That mean we have a deal, Chuck?" And he's like, "On one condition. This is our rescue mission. Brute tactics will not be tolerated." He's like, "Gambit's not himself. We're just here to make sure he doesn't put anyone else in danger." So Rogue is pacing. She's talking to Kurt. She's like, "Gambit's alive? And he's killed Apocalypse?" Kurt's like, "We have witnessed our share of miracles." And she's like, "Huh. My daddy used to say, a miracle is just wrapping paper for the next tragedy." And Kurt's like, "Rogue, this is not the time for your colorful lamentations. Remy is back." And she like hugs him. She's like, "I know, Kurt, I know. And I'm afraid of what that means." And Kurt's like, "Everything will be fine, sister. I promise." So then they go, not everyone, not all of them. They go to like the Cerebro. Hank's like, "We made some update. We call it Cerebra." And Professor's like, "If Gambit is out there, this will help me find him." And he puts like the helmet on, and in his astral form appears in like New Orleans, like Louisiana, like Mardi Gras. He sees someone's like back in a crown. It looks like it's Gambit because he's wearing a trench coat, has a big bushy hair or whatever. But then Death Gambit appears behind him, mighty up untoward, peeking at another man's cards. Charles like gasps and then groans because Gambit puts his hands like over Charles' mouth, and then he turns purple Charles turns purple and starts lighting up the way Rogue did. And then there's almost like a brief image of Apocalypse, and then the Cerebra helmet like falls to the floor, and it seems like it's got the black energy. I don't know if it's burnt out or whatever. Cyclops like, Professor, did you find him? Charles just like sits with his back to them. I fear there's more to this darkness than we have yet to understand. And Rogue's like, just tell us where he's gone. The professor turns, he's gone home. Then there's an old church in Louisiana. I think it's a thieves guild, because like some men, I think the guy's name is Robert or something like that. They come in to talk to Belladonna, and she's got like her guards or people, all in their hoods, masks or whatever. She's like, what's going on, Robert? And he's like, you tell me. It's you who invited us. And he pulls out a red envelope and it has like a wax seal on the back. And Belladonna's like, don't be stupid. She holds one up. She's like, why would I send myself this invitation? And then from the shadows, Death Gambit's like, the invitations were mine. So he plops down like in a bunch of like black smoke energy and whatever. And they all gasp. He smiles and he has his eyes closed and he opens them. His eyes are red. And then he's playing with his cards. Surprised to see me? I know I am. And she's like, Remy, but you... He's like, Petite, you don't look so happy to see your thieving ex. And then that Robert dude... I don't know if it was Robert his brother or whatever brother, not real brother or something like that. But he's like, what the hell happened to you? He's like, what happened, big brother? For starters, I died. And then he gasps like as a black energy card gets flung right up to his neck. So he's like, he's going to kill him. Slices his throat. Then the devil snatched me out of the grave. Real bad customer. Cards go up to Belladonna's throat and all her men. They all gasp. And we can see the black energy like oozing and dripping off a tarot card. It's like the death. Are they all the death card? I don't know. And she's like, Remy, please. He's like, don't be scared, Sherry. Death is evolution. Then they all get covered in black energy goo and they're all like screaming in pain. And when it like kind of like drips off them, they all have like red eyes and their skin is like grayer. So he's basically turning them all into his puppet zombies. On the X-Force plane, it's flying. Rogue stands alone thinking. Jubilee checks on her. She's like, sorry. She's like, I know this will be hard facing Gambit. Rogue tells her, she's like, you got nothing to be sorry for. And, Remy's weighing on all our hearts. And, she can't, make it, feeling heavier. And she's like, heck, probably the best X-Force stay cleared of Remy anyhow. And she was like, sure, they can be a little intense, but tracking Apocalypse these past few months, I've learned that, you can't shut your heart off because that's the thing that's going to get you through this. Cable's like in a room, like back room or somewhere. He's polishing his rifle. Gene and Scott stand in the doorway. And he's like, family reunion time already? And Scott's like, we wanted to check in, see how you're holding up. And Jean like kind of puts her hand on Scott's chest, like let her try. She's like, it must have been strange fighting Apocalypse. Not exactly how I pictured my destiny. And then they like sit by him. Scott's like, why didn't you tell us, Nathan? He's like, that you'd met us as a boy. Why not reach out when you got back? He's like, time would have ripped us apart again, like it always does. And Scott's like, well, I've about had my fill of what happened yesterday or could tomorrow. For once, son, can we focus on what we could be today? And he put his hand on Cable's shoulder, and Jean puts her hand on his, and she's like, a family. And Cable doesn't say anything. But then it cuts to them like all in like the war room because they're in front of like one of those circular screens with like the globe or whatever. Scott says that they'll scout for Gambit quick and quietly unless they want X-Force and their mech sentinels on their butts. And when an alarm starts beeping, Cable's like, no way Val Cooper and her government stooges found us. Psylocke says that she senses no mech sentinel pilots outside, but she does sense, and Jean's like, a swarm of black holes where minds and souls should be. There's like some lightning, and then that Robert dude, he flies by on a flying motorcycle with like purple black energy coming out of it, and Gambit's like, they're all like on these flying motorcycles. Where did I don't know where they came from. Gambit's in the lead. He's throwing cards. They zigzag all over the place, and some like hit the jet. Angel, Sunspot, and Jean exit the plane, the fight. The engines are now like in flames. Gambit's minions, they blew a hole or one of the cards blew a hole in the plane, so they enter. Then, Rogue's there, she's surprised to see Belladonna and Robert, and she wonders, what has Gambit done to them? Scott tells her, skip the shock and awe, find Gambit. So the rest start fighting the intruders outside. Jean tries helping the plane, with telekinetically, but she's getting shot at also. Sunspot tries to cover for her, but he gets like a device stuck to side, like some sort of explosive thing. Angel's like shooting his feather blades at Gambit. Sunspot falls, but then Jean catches him telekinetically, and we see like the plane's going down, and so she goes after it. She's going to try to help, keep it from smashing into the ground. Rogue finds a big hole in the cargo area, so she's in there. There's the winds, air getting sucked out, whatever. Someone runs by. She's like, Remy, it's me, it's Rogue. It's like Apocalypse poisoned your mind. I can help you. Just trust me. And she takes a glove off, and she just like lets it fly out the hole. So now she lost her glove. And then Remy's like, life does flash before our eyes when we die. And he like walks towards her, his eyes glowing, but his face is like in the shadows. And she kind of closed her eyes for a second. Gambit's like, and when I died, all I saw was you. So she sheds a tear. He like smiles. She reaches for his face, but then like nothing happens, and he's a little surprised, and then he puts his hand on her wrist. And he's like, what's wrong? She's like, that ain't possible. He's like, warned you, Cher. Some things, they be deeper than skin. And then he taps her forehead with his energy stuff. Sleep, and she passes out. It seems kind of creepy. Jean communicates with the other that she lost contact with Rogue, and they're all fighting Gambit's people. So Kurt's like, I'm on it. Gambit is carrying unconscious Rogue over his shoulder. Kurt appears behind him with his sword out. Put her down, Remy. You are not yourself. Gambit flings like a death card, but Kurt teleports out of the way, and he appears behind Gambit, but then the card zigzags, like turns, and then hits Kurt. Then the energy takes him over. Gambit's like, now neither are you, mon ami. So he puts both on his flying... It's basically like Lobo's space bike or whatever. He throws some more cards, like a bunch of them, the back of the plane explodes. Belladonna and Robert, they jump out of the hole onto their flying bikes. Jean watches them fly away. Angel says that, the wings are coming off the plane. And then Cable yells that, they got to go after Gambit. Scott's like, no, we need every telekinetic landing this plane or we're all toast. And then she's straining in the air. Psylocke's straining inside. And Cyclops like, we can do this, son, together. So Cable looks at him, then lights up with his kinetic energy or whatever. And there's lots of screaming and groaning. Then there's a news report. Breaking. The screen's like, breaking, crash or attack. So the reporter's like, the Pentagon has confirmed the plane belonged to X-Force. They have yet to say if this was a failed terrorist attack or a crash. At the mansion, Wolverine, Morph, Storm, and Forge are watching. Morph said that the news was spooking the kids, so he put on The Exorcist. Wolverine pops his claws. Didn't get these back just to play gym coach while Jean and the others are blown out of the sky. Storm says that the school will be safe with Colossus. It's like, right now, our family needs us, and X-Men fight for their own. Let's move. But it's like weird before she's like, we can't do anything, or Val Cooper, the government will take away our school charter or something like that. But now she's like, let's go. It's like, okay. Rogue wakes up in a bed. It's like a fancy 4-poster bed. There's like purple light outside. Kurt with red eyes walks in holding a candle, and he smiles. She's like, Kurt, what's he done to you? And he's like, time to rise, sister. Dinner is served. You are the guest of honor. In a dining room, there's like a big fire in a fireplace. There's music on a record. Record playing. Gambit's holding like 2 glasses. I'm assuming it's champagne. Evening Cher. He pulls out a chair for her. She like stands there for a second. She finally sits down, like chuckles. She's like, sicking your brainwash X on me is a mighty bold way to ask a lady out for dinner. And he's like, you did always lack my unorthodox flair. And then they cheers. They clink their glasses. Gambit never would have dreamed you'd be working with the Merc hunting me down. Neither. She's like, Cable? She's like, no, Remy, we're trying to save you. And she's like, I thought I could. World's been conspiring to keep us apart for so long, Cher. We both learned to expect the worst. But now we've been dealt a whole new hand. That gap between the man I was and the one you want is finally gone. I'm laughing because this has got to be like the worst Gambit accent ever. So he takes her hand, or at least it can be. And she's like, this is so strange. Getting you back, why, it's all I ever dreamed of. But now you're here. I don't know if I should be relieved or scared. I crawled out of my grave to repeat regrets. This is our second chance, so no more holding my cards close to my chest. So here they are, Belle. I learned Apocalypse ain't no different than us. He had a love that broke his heart, too. So we see a flashback with Apocalypse. A priestess of ancient Egypt courted him, convinced him to give her a piece of his power. So Apocalypse holds out this like crystal thing. She touches it and she transforms. She's in the air, like energies around her, screaming in pain. Only to betray him, a trap she laid out to seek revenge for what he did to her people. She floats down towards him. He holds out his hand. Then she turns and teleports away and he like squeezes his fist. Like, argh. She done run away with it. Right here to the bayou. Locals know her as the External. Her relic will make you immortal like me. It'll bind us together forever, husband and wife. And then nothing, not even death, ever keep us apart again. So she sighs weirdly. She's like, how do I know I can trust you? Because I'm offering us a second chance. You got to believe in me. Believe in us, Cher. Outside, Belladonna and Robert, they set down these little chests. Gambit comes out, looks at all of them. Then there's a distant whoosh. He smiles. Rogue is floating in the air. She has a veil on. She floats down, takes his arm. They go to the front. Kurt's standing there, his eyes glowing. Hands Remy like a sword. He pulls it out of the sheath, and it's dripping in blood. Has blood on it. He hands it to Belladonna. She goes to the water and holds up. The Assassin's Guild calls upon its covenant with the External. So some blood drips in the water, but it's like, how's this blood fresh? Whose blood is it? Let this tribute awake you from your sleep and summon you forth. And she sticks the sword into a stump. There's a gust of wind. Rogue loses her veil. Then there's like thunderclap. Candles go out. There's a big swirl of energy coming out of the water. And then Apocalypse X is floating in the middle of energy. She opens her eyes. Who dares disturb my slumber? And Remy's like, c'est moi. And she's like, Remy LeBeau, this is unexpected. You have become stained and defiled. What is it you seek? And he points a finger at her. And then the crystal thing pops like out of her chest, and she laughs maniacally. This is forged from the very fires of creation, given to me by Apocalypse. And Gambit's like, afraid not, it belongs to me. You stole it from our predecessor. You dare to defy me? I have stood by the devil's side and glimpsed his dark intents. I will not indulge a scoundrel to entertain his. And then she gasps and groans. He like stabbed her with like a big dark energy sword or something. Sith. Sorry, gotta cut this game short. And she starts to dissolve, and then he takes the jewel. What goes round, come around. And she's like, Remy, no. Rogue's like, Remy, no, what did you do? He's like, going all in, Cher. You ready? And she looks at the jewel, looks at his face, and then the X-Jet flies over, and it quickly lands. The Gambit zombies get ready. Scott, Jean, Hank, Morph, Angel, Wolverine, Forge, Storm, Cable, Jubilee, and Sunfire. They all come out. Oh, wait, Psylocke. Did I say Psylocke? I don't even know who I said now. Scott says, Gambit, we don't want to fight you. Wolverine's like, but we will. Snick, snick, snick. Cable tells him, stand down now. And Rose, or someone's, was it Jean? It's like, Remy, please. Or whatever. And Gambit's like, if that's your bet, mes amis, I call. The zombies charge, X-Men attack, Cyclops and Cable blast them. Jean makes a few, like, kind of bunch together. Storm makes, like, a wind form a tidal wave or something like that, and waters, like, washes them away. Kurt attacks, but he's, like, kicking everyone's butt. He's, like, teleporting, hitting, teleport, punch. He's, like, just slugging everyone several times and just teleporting all over the place. And then he starts teleporting them and like dropping them into the bayou, which is like, that's not going to do anything. Maybe I don't even think there's a crocodile in there or anything. Gambit shoves his jewel on Rogue's chest without even asking her if she still wants it or anything like that. She groans and screams in pain, and she faints. And from the safety of the jet, Charles, he's like, I'm not going out there. He stays in there. He telepathically calls out, Remy, it's time to end this madness. And Gambit pulls out his staff, twirls it energizes, and a blade pops out the end. So like a sickle or whatever. And he charges at the jet. Professor X sends out like whatever, like sound, thought waves, happy thoughts, I don't know. Gambit gets knocked back a bit, like, and then he falls next to Rogue. In the battlefield of the mind, my will shall prevail. And it seems a little arrogant, whatever. So then they're next to like this dilapidated shack or something like that, and the colors are like green and orange. And Gambit's like, now this be an unexpected delight. He charges a bunch of magic cards, send them at Charles. Charles is able to stop them telepathically, since I guess because they're in the mindscape. But then he does get knocked back, and he does this high pitched scream, ah! And Gambit's like, where was this will back in Genosha when Gambit needed it? Then a giant Professor X pops out of the bayou behind him. As Jean once used the power of the Phoenix to bind a Memcron crystal, I now bind you with the power of Gambit had charged like a root, like that went in the water, and it goes off by like Charles, and it just explodes. Gambit leaps at giant Charles. Charles like changes into his like weird looking armor. There's a long string of cars are flying at the Professor. He blocks them with a shield. Gambit jumps around attacking, and he lands on Charles' chest, and it charges up his armor, so it goes off. Charles yells in pain again. He falls on his back and reverts to normal size. Gambit leaps up to attack Charles while he's like lying on his back, and then the Professor blocks him again with like psi energy. He manages to grab a hold of Gambit. Remy, if you can hear me, come back to me. And then like a dark hand starts to come out of Remy's gut. It's like, Professor, help me, please. So the hand reaches out, and I'm like, is this a trick? And Charles takes a hold of the hand. The others are still fighting Kurt, and he's like the only one fighting. I guess the other Gambit zombies are taken care of. They can't stop Kurt. Jubilee tells everyone to close their eyes, and she sets off like bright fireworks. Kurt is temporarily blinded, and Scott like blasts him right then, and then he slams this big tree. He's knocked out. So that's it. Cable's like, X-Force, Gambit's exposed. It's time to make our move. Psylocke and Angel move. Psylocke moves behind Scott, holds her psychic dagger to his throat. Cyclops is like, Nathan, no. Angel shoots down blades around the others, so that he says that they don't want to hurt them, but be certain that they will. Jubilee's like, Cable, what gives? He's like, sorry, kiddo, but I had to play nice to get close enough for the kill. He pulls out his gigantic rifle, points it at Gambit's body, and she's like, Nathan, do not make me take over your mind. He's like, Apocalypse is in there. It's my destiny to kill him. So Charles has Gambit's astral body, and Apocalypse, is now in the mindscape place. And it's like, after all this time, the teacher has still learned nothing. You're alive? In here? How? I would have thought, after your beloved Magnus, you might have finally understood. So Charles, like, tears are streaming down his face now. And Apocalypse like, I always survive. Cable's rifle's glowing. Jubilee looks at Sunspot. Sunspot flies straight up into Angel. Jean telekinetically moves Psylocke's arm away from Scott's like throat. Jubilee blasts Cable in the back with her firework, and then Cyclops blasts the rifle out of his hands, and it lands in the bayou. Apocalypse in the mindscape grabs Gambit by the head and pulls him away from Charles. Charles like reaches for his arm. And then there's like red and black energy from Apocalypse starts pouring over his arm, and Charles like groaning in pain. Gambit's astral body is like almost inside Gambit, or his astral body is almost inside Apocalypse, and then Apocalypse grabs and lifts Charles, and starts covering him with his red and black goo or whatever, and Charles' vision starts to go blurry. Rogue and Gambit's bodies are lying on the ground, and her face like starts twitching a little bit. There's a beam of yellow light just like lands behind Apocalypse and like hits him in the back. Charles is like knocked free from his grasp. Apocalypse yells. Charles like turns and like, Remy, and he gets pulled back into Apocalypse. Rogue's in the real world, whatever. Rogue's fingers twitch a little bit, and they're like an inch away from Gambit's, and then there's like a fade to black. But then somehow Rogue is in a mindscape now. So she reaches into Apocalypse. She starts pulling Gambit out. She's like, come on, sugar. And Professor X, he's just sitting there in the bayou. He's just watching. His bum's getting all wet, whatever. And Astro Gambit like groans and pants. And then they're almost embraced, and Gambit lets out a big gasp. Apocalypse starts getting like sucked into Gambit's back. And there's like this bright yellow light. Rogue wakes up and Remy is back to normal skin color. But it's like he's not moving. He's not doing anything. Is he dead? Cable manages to find another gun. And he's pointing it. So he has like target sight. It's like weird because like Beast is standing right there. The target sight is almost like on Beast's crotch. It's like you need to lower that a little bit. Professor calls out telepathically, X-Men, we must retreat now. And then Scott's like, Kurt, you're back with us? So Jean kneels at Gambit's side and is kind of blocking Cable's shot. So he like grits his teeth, he like grunts. Kurt teleports them all away. And Cable grunts and throws his gun in the bayou. On, I'm assuming the jet med bay or somewhere, Gambit's like and he's in a medical bed. Professor says his vitals are faint, but his neural activity is most strange. So Apocalypse will not stay contained inside Remy's consciousness much longer. So if they don't move quickly, will take him, over for good. Rogue takes like Remy's hand. She's like, I've got you, Sugar, I won't lose you, not again. And it's kind of, the thing that was kind of funny though, is Gambit's like lying in a bed. He's under the covers, so they obviously put him there, covered him up, but they didn't bother taking his trench coat off. So he's got a trench coat on underneath the covers. It's kind of weird. Cable loads, he's moving like some sort of like moving truck or, whatever. Psylocke and Angel come up behind him. Angel's like, your honeypot didn't work. And Cable just growls. And Psylocke's like, enough, Warren. It's time to regroup. Angel's like, with whom? It's just 3 of us now. And then lights in like, ching, ching, ching. Strong Guy, Havoc, Madrix, and Wolfsbane jump down from somewhere. Cable holds up a big rifle and walks towards Havoc. He like chuckles. If you think you're taking us in, you're in for a surprise, pal. And it's like, not pal, that's your uncle. And Havoc like looks to the side, hey, Chief. And so Valerie Cooper, she walks out of shadows. You're not the ones we're after. And she puts a tarot card in his hand. What do you say to both of us getting what we want? And it's like, what is it they want? Gambit now? It's like, what? It's so stupid. I can't stand Val Cooper. She's just so annoying in this. I don't remember her being this annoying in the comics back then, but whatever. So that was X-Men. Gambit is back, but there's one episode left, and I don't think things are going to go too well. Okay, Batman Cape Crusader. We're just going to do one episode. Season 2, Episode 2, Rocket's Red Glare. Okay, let's go. Because I'm feeling stressed with all these shows and with like Lanterns coming up, and which is out now. As you listen to it, I gotta get through these shows. It starts off. This was let me preface this. This was I liked this episode, and when I mentioned the title last week, I was like, Rocket's Red Glare. I have no idea what that's about. Who might feature? What Batman villain? Who from his Rogues Gallery would have something with a red rocket? It's like, what does that mean? I don't know. And that's what I liked about this episode, because as far as I know, this isn't someone, I think this is a new villain, new character, spoiler. And that made it a little more exciting. While, we are seeing different versions, like we have a sort of different version of Eddie Enigma so far. And it's kind of nice because as much as, Batman has such a great rogues gallery, and it's always interesting to see the different interpretations. Even like Mad Hatter, Mad Hatter has been gender bent, and now she is like a news reporter, but she still has hat. She's not doing the crazy tech stuff yet. Who knows? But that's the thing, like even with that, it's like you're suspicious, like, oh, she's going to do it someday. Eddie Enigma, he's going to start doing, riddles all the time. So you kind of have like this preconceived notion where you kind of have an idea where things might go. But with this one, because it's like a new character, it was interesting. It kind of reminds me of sort of like the Grey Ghost episodes where like, who's this new character we don't know that was just, created. So I totally appreciate that this is something new and you don't know where things are going. So it starts off, we see a building, just one like security guard brings donuts to like 2 security dudes sitting behind a desk. And then the place starts shaking, like debris starts falling from the ceiling. A mechanical voice says, Triad Industries is under attack. You are not the targets. For your own safety, get out now. So they run outside and they see there's like this big like smoking hole at the top of the building. It's like a big, tower or whatever, a skyscraper, whatever you want to call it. And then one dude like looks up, he sees like someone fly out through the smoke out of the hole. So then it cuts to Lucius is over at Wayne Manor. They're having breakfast out on the balcony. Lucius like reads in the paper about the attack. Pennyworth. It's weird because they always call him Pennyworth. I don't think they've ever called him Alfred, so I'm just going to call him Pennyworth because that's what they call him. He's like, one wonders what was inside that might cause such an explosion. Lucius, he says that the paper says electrical fire, and Pennyworth questions it being confined to, the 3 uppermost floors in a building containing no industrial equipment. And then he asks Bruce, don't you find that odd? And Bruce is like, what's odd is either of you caring about this at all. If the papers are saying it's an accident, GCPD must have signed off. Lucius says that, there are an awful lot of unanswered questions. And then Bruce is like, why are you here on a Saturday, Lucius? Don't you ever stop working? And he's like, today is Monday, and that means paperwork. So he takes out like some contracts for Bruce to sign. He's like, Monday, really? He looks at the paper and he's like, Triad Industries. Do I know that name? Lucius is like, the CEO has approached your company for funding, rejected. And Bruce is like, I remember. They gave some kind of presentation. New power source? And Lucius is like, Ultrium. They had documents and a pitch reel. And he's like, all still at my office. And Bruce is like, great. Bring everything along tomorrow. We'll screen it in the theater. Pennyworth can make popcorn. And Lucius is like, and why am I doing this? And Bruce is like, what? I'm taking an active hand. That night, Batman swoops into the building through the hole in the Batglider. So it's like wide open. And I know they're not going to seal it up or anything, but you would think they would have kind of like police, do not cross, like tape, something covering this big gaping hole. Because you're still going to get wind and stuff blowing in. It's at the top of this tower. So he goes in. He radios Pennyworth. He's inside. He says there's no way an electrical fire caused this. And it looks like there's blast craters, and they appear to be from like simultaneous explosion. Pennyworth asks, he's like, grenades or bombs? He's like, inconclusive. Need to, but then he stops because a guard and this dude in like a suit comes in. The guy's name is Gunther Hardwick. He's a big dude. And so Batman's like hiding behind like the corner or whatever. And Hardwick tells a security guard, Sal, that he's done a good job keeping a lid on things. And Sal's like, thanks, but I was thinking maybe we let the cops in on what's been happening. Hardwick says to let the partners decide what they can handle. He can just keep doing what he's been doing, keeping a lid on things. Then they come across a Blacklighter, like, what is that? Then they turn and Batman's right there. They automatically start shooting. So a little questionable. I mean, I guess they would freak out or whatever. Batman throws a smoke bomb. They keep shooting blindly, and Batman goes for the glider and exits. And Hardwick just like frowns. So then we see the next day, the pitch reel. Triad presents Up and Away, The Future is Now. So mentions people, there's a woman like narrating. She mentions people starving all over the world. Epidemics are killing millions across the globe. Nations wage war over territory and resources. Generation after generation, is humanity fated to repeat these horrors forever? And then she's like, no. Our future is in the stars. Exploration, invention. The future is made possible by my new rocket-based technology and by the Ultrium, the fuel of the future. Clean, pure, inexhaustible, the perfect power for golden destiny. It's time for humanity to blast off. And Bruce like, why did we pass on this again? Lucius says that Misters Lydecker, Lawford, and Hardwick wouldn't let them independently evaluate Ultrium and the designs for their rocket technology. And he's like, am I sensing a change of mind on Triad? And Bruce is like, let's just say my interest is piqued. So Lucius asks if he wants to take another look at the project to see how far along they are. Bruce says that he does, and Lucius says that he likes his version of Bruce, participating. Later, Lucius is like kind of second guessing having scheduled a meeting. They're sitting at like out on they're standing on the steps outside the building. He's like, you never go to meetings. He's like, you have no idea how things are supposed to go. So then Warren Lawford, CEO of Triad Industry, he meets them outside. Hardwick, he's at the front desk with like Sal, the security guard, and he kind of joins them as they walk. And he comments that they gave them the hi-hat the last time. And Bruce like, it's Lucius' job to zealously protect my assets, but I couldn't get your Ultrium project out of my mind. Lawford says it's a miracle element, nearly unlimited power generated by even the tiniest amounts. And Bruce is like, amazing. He says that he was hoping to meet with Dr. Sutton because her designs are incredible. Lawford says that, a genius like her, something like comes once in a lifetime, be singing her praises for generations. But Sutton's dead. At the top of the escalator, the other dude, Armand Lydecker, meets him. I don't know, he must have met with Lucius before because he almost seems like on friendly terms, but I guess not. And Bruce asks about Dr. Sutton. So they refer to her, they don't call her Dr. Sutton, they just call her Roxy, which seems weird. It seems a little sexist because, Lawford referred to her as Roxy. So Lydecker says that, there was an accident, an explosion at her home lab. And Lawford says that, she was killed instantly, nothing left of her at all. Lydecker says that the important thing is that, most of her notes and designs were copied prior to her death. So it seems a little sketchy. Lawford says, he says that there is enough left to make sure her legacy survives, and they'll use it to usher in a new golden age. Bruce says that the prototype rocket is impressive. Lucius asks if the project is in its final stage, even with the loss of Dr. Sutton. And Lawford, again, he's like, losing Roxy was a blow, but yes, we're actually ahead of schedule. So, and again, what I like about the show, what I find interesting, is that it's in like the olden time, with the cars and just the way they dress and everything like that, and even like how Detective Flass is like so sexist against Montoya, even though she's like awesome. So there's clearly like a lot of sexism. And she's Dr. Sutton, and they're just referring to her as Roxy instead of giving her like the respect or whatever. So Lydecker says that they're demonstrating their working rocket prototype this weekend. So a projectile as big as an office building, powered by a single brick of ultrium. And Lawford says that they'd love for them to attend. It'll be just them and a few foreign dignitaries and people with money and vision. So apparently, they're not going to be taking any chances. The Ultrium will travel by rail and be stored at a secure Triad testing site. Nothing will stop the launch, and a squad of Gunther's best men will be on guard the whole time. Then we see someone standing on a cliffside with like a rocket on her back while the train departs, and it looks like a dude, right? His big arms and everything like that. The train goes across the countryside over this bridge, and then a rocket flies up alongside of it. Guards inside see the rocket, and then they hear like stomping on the roof. There's a little explosion, and then the rocket dude jumps down and has like this big helmet, almost like a bullet helmet, and like this big gun. Aims and shoots, knocks one guard. It's not like a regular gun because it doesn't pierce him. It just like sends him flying back through the door. Like that has that much concussive blast or whatever. So it sends the guard flying through the door into the next train car. The Batmobile, meanwhile, is driving alongside the train now. Batman sees a rocket, puts a car in auto, hops through the hole in the roof, and he lands behind the Rocket Man, which is, I don't know what we'll call him. We'll just say Rocket Man. He grabs him, and the guard yells, "Another one!" And it starts shooting. So Batman has to like turn and throw a batarang to knock the gun out of the guard's hand. And then he runs at the other one. This allows Rocket Dude to shoot some more. Batman's fighting the guards with his fists. He goes back to the Rocket Man, tries to stop him, but then Rocket Dude sees like a rifle being raised at Batman's back, shoves him aside so that he can like shoot the guard. Somehow the Rocket Man's helmet got cracked and like half is gone, revealing it's Dr. Sutton, aka Roxy, because we saw her like in the pitch reel video when she was narrating, and Batman's like, "Dr. Sutton?" She presses a button like on her belt, and a super bright light goes off like in her chest armor thing. Batman's like blinded, and then she shoots him with her rocket gun or whatever. He goes flying back, and he knocks out a guard, with him. She shoots like the couplings for the train car on both ends. Batman watches from the front one. Then the car with her explodes, and she flies out of it and like into her rocket. Batman goes on top of the train car, jumps onto the Batmobile, drives after her, but then the rocket like guns it, takes off over this like ravine, and Batman gets out and watches it fly off. So I don't know what she was doing, but it didn't seem like she really did anything because nothing changed. Later, Batman tells Pennyworth that he saw her. He notes 4 Triad locations destroyed in the last year. Pennyworth says, and not the results of accidents. Batman's like, 1, accident. 2, coincidence. 3, 4, 5, now with the train. And Pennyworth is like, there's a 6-month gap between the destruction at Dr. Sutton's home lab and the first. Are we calling them attacks officially? And Batman's like, followed by the machine warehouse. And Pennyworth is like, now this recent attack on a train and at the Triad home office. Only their records library was destroyed. Patents, blueprints, formulas. Pennyworth is like, you believe Dr. Sutton is responsible for all of it? Batman notes that, the hole in the building was made by a small explosion, the kind made by that, rocket pistol of hers. She's using her inventions to damage Triad. Curious, why go to these lengths? Why fake her own death? Too many questions, but I've got an idea where to get some answers. So he goes to, there's a fence off side of her, ruined house. He goes to a barn. Somehow he knew to hit, a water pump, because it opens a secret hatch, and there's, stairs that go down. And there's, a little rocket, on a work table, whatever, just bulletin board with clippings and pictures of the 3 dudes, and, written across their faces, Fox, Vulture, and Shark. And there's, newspaper clippings. Genius dies in explosion, but over dies, murdered was written over it. And then without turning around, he's like, you have to stop this, Dr. Sutton. And then she's like, you shouldn't have come here. You haven't killed anyone yet, but your luck will run out. This vendetta can't go on. And she's like, the masked vigilantes lecturing me about vendettas? He turns around and sees her, the right side of her face is scarred, some hair missing, her eyes discolored. He grabs her and shoves her against the wall. You need help. The accident obviously hurt your mind. And she's like, accident? It was them. I found out what those animals were doing with my work. So in a flashback, she's like, you're trying to sell my plans to foreign powers. They tell her to be reasonable. Be reasonable, Roxy. So, rocket to the stars costs money. This is how and she cuts them off and says that they've reached their contract. So they'll be hearing from her lawyer. So she walks out with some rolled up blueprints and stuff like that. She goes to her house, and inside are 5 sticks of dynamites, probably wired to a timer or some remote device. She sees it, but it's too late. Boom. And then Hardwick stands outside with a remote detonator, I'm assuming. And the other 2 are sitting in the backseat of the car. They drive off. And then Dr. Sutton, she managed to jump into this rocket prototype. So she tells Batman, when I discovered their plans for my work, they tried to remove me. And he's like, if that's true, they're criminals. I couldn't get to the bottom of it. Bring them to justice. And she's like, where were you when they were corrupting my work? Where were you when they tried to kill me? But it's he's there now. He can't be everywhere at once. Did she tell anyone? She runs off with her blueprints, doesn't say anything. It's she clearly didn't know them. She hits a button, and then 3 sets of explosions goes off, and he releases his hold on her. More explosions. She grabs a new helmet. She flies up the stairs. Barn goes up. Batman grabs the blueprints and some file folders, and then boom, he grunts, and she's gone. In the Batcave, he tells Pennyworth, Sutton's obsessed. The testing facility is the last place left, so demonstrations tomorrow, and there will be guests, company personnel. And Pennyworth in situations like this, many would call the police, perhaps warn Commissioner Gordon of the impending. Gordon's people can't handle her. With her technology, she'd cut through them like butter. Then it's down to you again, but the testing grounds is hundreds of miles from Gotham. How will you get there in time? At the testing place, Lawford says that the rocket is a magnificent example of tried technology, but the real miracle is the power source. Ultrium is clean, reusable, and easy to produce. That behemoth is powered by a cube no larger than a paperweight. It's welcome to the future, ladies and gentlemen. It's one you will own at wholesale prices. The people in the room applaud, and he leaves through an elevator, goes to another level where Hardwick is talking to Lydecker, and he tells him, grow a spine. He's like, that's, what's in the rocket is our last cube of Ultrium if the test fails. And Hardwick says that his whining is starting to get on his nerves, and Lawford breaks it up. Lydecker says that they should just call it off and say it was a technical difficulty or something like that, and call them all back in a few months. Hardwick says that in a few months they won't come. This is their only chance. Lawford says that their assets are tied to today's success. Once they see what they have, they'll have plenty of government contracts. Lydecker hisses that Roxy is still out there. Hardwick says relax, even if she does show up, this time his boys are ready for anything she's got. So they start to count down. Roxy speeding over there in her rocket, a vehicle thing. Batman pops up behind her in a bat plane. He has a She has rockets on hers, and he has a propeller. So it's like, how is he going to keep up with her? He also has like a couple guns mounted on a cockpit, and he starts shooting. No effect. She hits a switch, and these little spherical bombs like shoot out the back. Batman dodges and everything like that. Shoots some more at her. She ducks in the clouds and ends up behind him. So she starts shooting at him. He puts the brakes on, flies back behind her. It's just like they're going back and forth. Shoots some more. But this time, for some reason, the bullets are penetrating the rocket. So maybe it just weakened the metal. I don't know. It starts going down. She flies out with her like rocket pack. She like shoots and slices the wings off the bat plane. So that starts going down. He hits the ejector seat, flies up at her, grabs onto her, and they like crash through the top of a hangar. And he ends up like on top of her, pulls off her helmet. He tells her it's over, and she's like, "Look around, don't you see where we are?" And there's like a bunch of like rockets and stuff around it. She's like, "This is my work, mine. They're selling it to madmen, mass murderers. They'll turn the whole world into a perpetual war zone." And then she gets shot from behind. Hardwick has this like big gun along with like 4 guards. "It's called business, Roxy." He's like, kill them both. They open fire. Roxy's like catching her breath, but she manages to get up and pull out her gun. So she shoots like a big rocket, and it like falls over, making them scatter. And Hardwick's like, "Why couldn't you just take the money? Let the men handle the business." And she's like, "I won't have that blood on my hands." And the Batman, she's like, "You see now?" And she's like, "I've destroyed everything they stole from me, all but the one piece of ultrium." And he's like, "The one in a rocket." So they're pinned behind like some crates and stuff like that. The guards keep shooting. She's like, "I can rewire it, make sure the test fails. It'll bankrupt Triad." She like shoots some more, and she's like, "I said, I'm out of ammo." He's like, "I'm not." He throws a batarang, and it takes out like 2 guards. And then Hardwick radios launch a rocket in the control room to tell a technician to launch. And he's like, we're only halfway through the countdown. And he like yells. He's like, he shoves him aside, and slams his hand down on the red launch button, and it goes up. Roxy looks dejected because they see the rocket taking off. Batman says that he'll deal with the guards. He's like, "Go." So he jumps out, like kicks one dude, and he starts punching another. Roxy goes and takes off. Batman fights another, beats him down, and then Hardwick like grunts and he moves like towards him. The rocket's going up and up. Batman's fighting Hardwick. Hardwick grabs a wrench to swing at Batman. Roxy reaches the rocket. Batman grabs a little rocket missile used to block the wrench. He hits Hardwick in the gut and then gives him like an uppercut with the rocket. Roxy climbs up. She opens a panel where the ultrium is connected. Batman punches. Hardwick goes down, and in sitting, he's like, "You're too late, freak. There's nothing that she can do. That demo will be a complete success." But she yanks out the ultrium brick. The rocket explodes. Lydecker and Lawford gasp. Hardwick sees the explosion. He groans. He looks like he's crying. Batman looks up, but it's like, did Roxy make it? Newspaper headlines: rocket test failed. And another one's like, Triad bankrupt. Triad founders found guilty of treason. At the crater at Roxy's place, Batman tosses the blueprints in while Pennyworth pours gasoline on them. "Are you quite sure about this, sir?" "It's what she wanted." "In the right hands, Dr. Sutton's work could be transformative." "And whose hands would those be?" So Bruce tosses in a lighter, whoosh, and then they drive off. And then there's a sign that says, "Future site of Sutton Laboratories, a Wayne Foundation project." But it's like, he could use that stuff for like the bat plane or whatever, but I guess not. It's weird that he grabbed the blueprints and then he ends up burning them, but I don't know. And another part of town, there's this old lab. There's a dude whistling, and he grabs 2 vials of green liquid marked Blockbuster. So it must be what Hugo did. I didn't realize it was the Blockbuster serum or whatever. He puts them in a satchel. There's a whole bunch in there. Closes the bag, whatever. And then the shadows tell us is, okay, that's clearly not Hugo Strange's silhouette. Hugo is actually sitting in a chair. He's got a big frozen grin on his face as the man whistles and he walks past him. So I guess Hugo is dead. No more Hugo Strange. And this is one of the things I talked about, when I mentioned with the X-Men show. So when they're doing Batman Cape Crusader, we're at the 2nd season. I'm surprised we got the 2nd season on Prime. I'm so glad we did. But as they're doing this, you never know, especially with all the shakeups, and I don't know how far back they did this, but they can't count and expect that it's a guarantee there's going to be another season. So I guess, when you're doing these, you gotta go all out, because, while they're losing the opportunity to tell any other Hugo Strange stories, but maybe it's just like, well, here's a big shocking thing. Okay, we're just gonna go with this. So that was the second episode. All right, then Silo Season 3, Episode 6, The Drive. So there's going to be a lot of scenes in the minivan, which I'm fine with, because I'm really curious, what's going on there. But it's interesting, and it's silly. I know the Daniel and the Helen stuff's supposed to be in the past. Part of me, because we've been trained to expect the unexpected. So part of me is like, what if the Silo stuff's happening in current time, and we just, I mean, I don't think it could be possible, but yeah, so it can't be, right? There's just no way. So we'll see. So we see the workers are, working on the stairs, the gap. Camille gets a ride down on a swing. She goes up to Sims, and he shakes his head, basically saying, Juliet, he didn't finish his job. And she said that she thought that he knew where she was going. Sims says that she got away, and she was helped by one of her mechanical friends. He chased them, but then they got down there first and disappeared before he could, get a chair down. And then he's like, you already knew I was down here. And she's like, people take notice of where you go, Robert. And you know what? He's like, I'll take it from here. And he's like, I know Greasetown, and it's still on edge. And she's like, I've got Joe and Chad. I think I can manage. He's like, I should be here for you. We could split up. And she's like, go home to Anthony. Spend time with him. And he's like, it doesn't have to come to that. And she's like, it will if I can't find her. So she's talking about the vitamin D+. So Camille goes down the stairs. On the radio, she calls Emerson, says that when Nichols was a fugitive and she was caught down there, find out where. And she's like, and Judge Sims is headed up. Keep eyes on him for his safety. Bernard is brought into Walker's. He's wearing a cloak, and others are still in there, and they stare at him. Bernard tells Knox that he needs to lie down and have some water. Patrick is shocked that he's alive, and a bit he asks, is anyone else coming back from the dead? The old sheriff, maybe his wife. Bernard tells Lucas that he's very glad that he's still alive, and Walker says that she didn't think that he'd survive the move. Bernard's like, is there a small part of you that's happy to see me again? And she just smirks. Then Juliet comes in. She's like, I remember. I know what we have to do. Emerson calls Camille, who's still going down the stairs, gives her the address for a workshop occupied by Martha Walker. So it's they need to get out of there. In the workshop, after Juliet explains, Lucas says, one of the lines must have been a pipe. And she's like, what? And then Bernard's like, Mr. Kyle put the hard drive I smashed back together. The diagram you found showed lines coming in from the outside. And he's like, there are two lines. One goes to IT, the other goes to judicial. And I didn't know what the lines were, but that's why I went to the mines. And Patrick says that he's an idiot. It's they're not going to put some killer pipe where criminals dig all day. And he's like, there are tunnels, they run the mines that go up and down the silo. And I almost made it to the line that goes into IT when they gassed the mines. Bernard's like, the lines going to IT carry electricity from silo 1. So if the generator stops, there's always power in IT. And Knox like, so then the line that goes to judicial, that's the safeguard. And Juliet's like, I think that's what he said. I think that's what Jimmy said. And Patrick's like, who's Jimmy? And she's like, Jimmy is the guy that I was with in 17. I think that's what he said. And Bernard's like, did this Jimmy tell you where the lines entered into judicial? She thinks back, looking at the blueprints. It's like, he had an old blueprint, but no, it's gone. Camille and her two goons are walking. They go past, I don't know the guy's name, if it's someone we've seen, but it's one of the allies to Juliet and them. So he runs to warn them. Knox asks, where's their blueprint? And Lucas says that if they have a blueprint, it would be on that hard drive, which is back in IT. So they're not going to, be able to get that. Patrick's like, well, maybe, your new pal Sims can help us get it. Walker is like, where is Sims? And Camille or Juliet says that he went to head off Camille. And then I forget who, someone, I don't know if it was Walker, says wait, is 17 the same as ours? And Juliet's like, yeah, they're exactly the same. So then Knox is like, so then if we find a pipe in 17, we find it here. Shirley asks if there's a way to communicate with Jimmy. And, Walker says that, every silo has its own frequency, they can try, but Juliet's like, I never saw him with the radio. He's like, I never, found a radio. And then the lookout dude busts in and says that Camille Sims is on her way. So they curse. Walker tells Bernard they're going to have to move him again. Meanwhile, Paul tells Hank what McLean said. When she became head of supply, they had 70 years of light bulbs left. Since then, someone started stealing them. It's down to 2. And Hank asks, what did they do? So Paul Billings like, first, we keep this to ourselves. It's only been 3 months since, one rebellion. We can't have another one. It's like, then we find out who killed Orla Kent. When we do, we might find out who stole the light bulbs. And Hank's like, or if we find out who's been stealing the light bulbs, maybe we find out who killed Orla Kent. So Camille's getting closer. She sees Juliet like standing outside a door looking at her. So the 2 guards, they turned their backs and you make a wall so they can go and talk. Juliet's like, before you arrest me, we should talk. Somewhere with no cameras. I remember everything. Then we get the intro. So then, in the past, maybe, the minivan's driving down like a smaller road. Daniel curses as they're going 70, so they probably should have tried jumping out when they were still in the city. Helen's like, I said that, and you said that we would die even at 40. He's like, only horribly injured, but now we'd definitely just be a smear. And she's like, can you just, try taking out the key, please? He's like, no. He shows her the keys like in the center console, so it's like one of those keyless cars or whatever. You just keep the key in proximity and it starts. So she grabs them and she tosses them out the window since, they need to be in proximity of each other. Because, he's like, hey, what? And she's like, if we get the fob away from the van, won't it stop working? Danny's like, I hope not. He's like, your kid tosses it and, you shut down in the middle of I-95. Like, that's not safe. And she's like, safe is not what I'm fudging feeling right now. And he's like, no brakes, no steering. And she's like, this is like what happened to Charlotte's squadron. And he's like, you think someone in Iran is driving this? She's like, I don't know, but someone is. Stenson's been sounding the alarm of how AI can be used by hackers, right? So maybe he was on a Nimitz because he feared that the planes would be compromised and they were too crazy. He's like, I think we're neck deep in crazy. So he's like, starts like reaching under the steering wheel, and he tells Helen that he needs something with a flat edge. So, looking at center console, the glove compartment, she dumps her purse in her lap, and then he sees the duck Pez dispenser that he gave her. And so she hands him like a nail file, and he opens a little panel with wires. He starts to slide down to see what he's doing. And she's like, do you actually know what you're doing? And he's like, roughly. He's like, brakes are simple. You step on a pedal, it activates a line which makes brake pads squeeze. But whoever is driving this is doing something with that electronics to stop. So if I can access, he like cut his hand like on a bolt or screw or something like that. So she grabs some tissues or something like that, puts pressure on the wound, and he looks at her almost like lovingly. So it's like he's got a crush on her or something. So, and then I guess there must have been a first aid kit or something like that, because I think she put like a bandage on it. And she's like, think you'll live? And he's like, sure, hope so. In the silo, Juliet says that she knows about the voice. And Camille, I cannot stand Camille. She's like, what voice? And Juliet's like, no, don't do that. And Camille's like, I'm not going to talk to you about this. And she turns her back on Juliet. And Juliet's like, Camille, I didn't go into a refuge hut. I don't know what it tells you, but I went into another silo. So Camille kind of like looks to see if, make sure the other guards didn't hear. Juliet's like, it's not dead. There are kids in it, and they're alone. And somehow they've managed to survive. But I promised them that I would go back to them. That's what I remember. I remember that I said I would bring them back here. And Camille's like, that's an insane request. And Juliet's like, let me ask the voice, and it can decide. And she's like, no. And Juliet's like, people treat me like a living founder. If I jump off the stairs, they'll follow. You want to see what else they're willing to do for me? Camille's like, you sound like a threat to the silo. And Juliet's like, no, Camille, I want to save the kids. So Camille, she's like holding out the key to the room, and the fob or whatever, it's like lit up, it's red. And Juliet's like, you sure there are no cameras here? It looks like it knows we're talking. So Camille closes her hands on the keys. In the minivan, Daniel's still like reaching for wires. Helen asks any luck. He's like, no, there has to be some way to stop this thing. Then she sees like headlights behind him, like about to pass. So she climbs over the driver's seat. Since he's down low, she rolls down the window. She's like, hey, stop. She's like, call the police, help, stop, please, call the police. They look at him, just like drive past him. They must think she's crazy or something. And she curses. Danny's like, what happened? And she looks at him. She's like, I think I know how to stop this thing. Paul and Hank question a dude. I think it might be Mark Chambers. I think it was head of fabrication. He tells Hank that he makes things, he doesn't steal them. Hank says that they're just hoping he knows somebody who does. Chambers says that he only associates with pact-abiding citizens. Hank's like, Mark, we've got something pretty serious going on. We could really use your help. And he's like, serious? Like getting chucked over a rail? There are 2 raiders guilty of throwing my best friend to his death during the rebellion, but I don't hear you asking about that. Paul's like, this friend of yours, was his name Lee Torgensen? And was he thrown over for using a weapon you made for him? And Mark's like, oh, fudge you. He's like, who the fudge are you? He's like, I'm the sheriff. And if you don't cooperate, he's like, you're not a sheriff, you're an accident. And Hank's like, Mark? He's like, you got the job by default. Now you're standing here wearing Holston's hand-me-downs and they're one size too big. You want to arrest someone? Arrest your wife. And he's like, Mark. And Mark's like, you think people don't know about her and the outsiders trying to get us all killed? So Billings takes out his cuffs. And he's like, oh, what are you going to do, Mr. Sheriff? Drag me out of here? He's like, that'll look great. Because he's like in a chair. Hank's like, Mark, we are not threatening you. We're just in a tough spot, and we really need to know if anyone has info on things disappearing from critical supply. And he's like, I'm not doing poop for this a-hole. And then Paul's like, how about this? You give us something we can use, and I'll look into the raiders. And Mark's like, you won't do anything. Paul's like, I'll get their names. I'll give them to you. Whatever you do with that information is up to you. And Hank kind of gives him a glance, and Chambers thinks about it. He's like, all right, here's this. The weapons I made for Knox. You want to know about stolen poop? His father was crooked as a screw. He used to steal diamond drill bits from Supply and sold them on a black market as jewelry. As far as I know, he's out of that game, but he'll know more than I will. He's like, that's something you can use? And they turn to walk out. He's like, get me those names. And Hank asks Paul if he's all right, but Paul says he's fine. In a minivan, they're behind the seats now, like ducked down. The van's driving itself. And she's like, if we just sit and we wait, all it takes is one person see an empty van driving by itself, and they'll call the cops. Daniel just nods. And she's like, oh, ye of your little faith. Camille opens the door to the vault, whatever. She goes in with Juliet. Juliet Nichols, why are you here? So she's not sure what to do. Camille's like, you just speak. So Juliet's like, okay, I know what happened when I went outside, and in Silo 17, there are kids, and I want to bring them back here. Silo 17 is flooding, and they're going to die. I'm not working against the silo. I'm not working against you. I'm not a threat. There's a pause. The numbers predict disaster for the silo if you leave. Request is denied. And she's like, no, not me. We'll send someone else to get them. The numbers predict disaster if residents from another silo join Silo 18. Request is denied. Juliet's like, no, but they're kids. They're going to die in 17. They'd be invasive. Request is denied. So then Camille's like, time to leave. Come on. So they start to walk out, and then Juliet turns back. She's like, okay, what if I go back on a memory drug? Is that what you want? I was like, I'll do it. You can even drug the kids, and then they won't be a threat to anyone here, right? Camille's watches Juliet's face. She looks at the computer screen. How many children? So the two exit. Camille seems upset, and she turns and points a finger at Juliet. She's like, I think you're making a play. And Juliet's like, I'm not. You're not? Juliet's like, you have my word. And Camille's like, I have your word, really? And then Juliet's like, you lied to me. You drugged me for 3 fudging months, and you question my honesty? And she gave a nice poke in Camille's shoulder when she said that. She's like, I'll find someone to get the kids, and then I'll go back to being your mayor. In the minivan, it swerves a bit. Helen looks up, and Danny's like, what? She's like, we're in the middle of fudging nowhere. She's like, don't rental cars have locator things? And he's like, I got this from Joe's sketchy car rental. It's like, there's no locator. She's like, you're a congressman, so people are going to notice it if you don't show up for work. And he's like, not for at least a day. They'll just be glad I'm not babbling about infrastructure reform. And she's like, what about Charlotte? Danny's like, saw her a couple days ago, and she barely knew who I was. And Krinkovich asked me to stay away for a little bit while she gets focused therapy. But he said that she's doing better, so there's that. And he's like, you? Any potential rescuers in your corner? And she's like, I mean, I got fired, so nobody there is expecting to see me ever again. And I'm a pretty poopy friend. Takes me weeks to call anyone back, so no. And then Danny's like, if they did just want to kill us, they'd have plenty of opportunities. They could have driven us into a bridge abutment or off a cliff or into a tree, but they haven't, which, leaves the possibility we could be going someplace nice. She looks at him and kind of chuckles. She's like, we are so fudged. Walker gets started when her door opens. Bernard's, lying on a sofa. It's Juliet. And she asks, where's Lucas and Kennedy? She's like, Kennedy just wouldn't stop talking. He needs a rest. So I found them an empty single down the hallway. And Juliet's like, good. And Walker's like, where did you go? She's like, I went with Camille to the vault. I spoke to it. And she's like, what did you say? She's like, I said, I want to send 2 people to 17 and bring the kids back here. And it believed you? She's like, I think so. Is it a person or a machine? And Juliet's like, I don't know. So who are you going to send? And she shrugs. She's like, when I went out, I didn't have a choice. I had to keep going, right? There are hundreds, there are thousands of bodies out there. So whoever we send has to be able to walk through that and not want to turn back. If I had a choice, I don't think I could do it. So they better be strong. She's like, yeah. And they've got to be smart. They've got to find that pipe. They've got to figure out how to cap it. And it turns out Bernard's awake. They need to be engineers, the best you have. Juliet gives Walker a look, and she's like, ask. They can always say no. Knox goes into the office by the Gap construction, whatever, asks Shirley what's going on. She says she can't stop thinking, all of them could be gone, before they even get a chance to. He's like, I know, but we can't think like that. We just have to focus on what we can do. Then she stands at alert because she sees Paul and Hank walking towards the office. So Paul tells Knox that he needs a word with him. And he's like, about what? And Paul's like, your father. Knox closes his eyes, exasperation. He's like, this is not a good time. And Hank's like, yeah, it'll just take a minute. And Paul just gets to the point. What do you know about his connection to the market and stolen goods? And Knox is like, I'm not doing this right now. And Paul's like, why not? He's like, because I'm not. Are you trying to protect him? He's like, are you fudging kidding me? Are you really asking me that? And this is where it's like, man, I kind of lost. Knox is annoying. I lost some respect for him. I don't care what's going on. And Paul's like, yes, I am, because if you are, what? He's like, what are you going to do? You think that badge means poop to me? And Shirley, it's like Hank. And, he tells Knox to calm down. And he's like, this is about a murder. And Knox like, who? And Hank's like, Orla Kent. He's like, I don't know her. And Paul's like, the hell you don't? She was a shadow to the head of supply. She was at the silo council. He's like, if I say I don't know her, then I don't fudging know her. Like you apparently don't know me. Get him the fudge out of here, Hank. And Paul tries going after him and angrily, but Hank holds him back. And he's like, don't, not now. Just trust me, not now. Shirley closes the door to the office. Paul turns and sits on some steps. And he's like, hey, look, you told me Hardwood had a run-in with Orla Kent at the council meeting, right? You said McLean was suspicious of Hardwood's daughter when she was shadowing her. He's like, Glenda. And he's like, yeah, already spoke to her. Got nothing concrete. But maybe we can track her movements and Orla's. And Hank's like, track them? How? So they go and knock on Emerson's, I think it was Emerson's door. And she's like, what do you want? And Paul's like, where do you watch the cameras? And she's like, nowhere. And she starts to close the door. Paul slams his foot down in the doorway to stop it. And she's like, there was a room on 19, but they shut it down. And Paul's like, I've been rewriting the pact, and I know nothing's changed. Take us. Walker brings Bernard some food. He's fiddling with something, and she's like, what's that? And he's like, there was a relic I kept in my pocket for years. It looks like folded gum wrapper. He's like, record said that it was found in a pillowcase a long time ago. They called such things good luck charms. And Walker's like, well, did it work? And Bernard's like, well, the relic burned along with some of me, so maybe not. That said, I'm still alive, although I'm not sure that's good luck. And she's like, oh, boo-hoo. You've been weighted on hand and foot. All you have to do is lie back and pontificate. And Bernard's like, why did you keep me alive? And she's like, you convinced Sims not to kill Juliet. He's like, I know, it's just, it can't have been easy. And she's like, no. And you're still a rat poop a-hole. You shouldn't be surprised if you wake up one morning with a screwdriver in your neck. He's like, even as a boy, they wanted me dead. And she like snickers. He's like, that wasn't a joke. I was always too smart and too quiet. And she like smiles. He's like, what's so amusing? She's like, it's just something Carla said. She said, if I like men and you like people, we'd make a great couple. And he's like, that is amusing. And then she hands him the wrapper. So I think it was like folded like in a heart shape. So I don't know what was in it. It was gummins. I don't know what would have burned inside. Minivan's still driving. They're still sitting in the back waiting on the floor, you know. And then Danny's like, I wanted to apologize. And Helen's like, now you don't? And he's like kind of confused. She's like, it's the wrong tense. If you actually want to apologize, it's I want. So Danny's like, I want to apologize, present tense. And she like smiles. He's like, for what I said about journalistic fraud. And he's like, what happened? And Helen's like, you really didn't look it up? He's like, I just saw there was something at the Post. And she's like, the thing at the Post makes it sound like I wore white to a wedding. He's like, I started to read it and then you made something up? She's like, I did a piece on drug addiction among congressional staffers. Yeah, I was careful. I changed everyone's details because I knew people would try to read between the lines, and I wanted to protect my sources, protect their anonymity. But the day it was published, a quote from a young woman I called Sharon got everybody talking. I knew it would. She implied that drug use was not limited to staffers. Rumors, spread that the speaker was using. You can imagine the pressure to reveal Sharon's identity, legislators, prosecutors, Capitol Police all demanding I reveal her name. And then those fudge nuts at the Washingtonian published a piece saying Sharon was really Jillian Akins, who worked in the speaker's office. Problem was, they were right. Danny's like, so what'd you do? She's like, the only thing I could do. I published a tearful confession, said I heard some utterly spurious rumors about the speaker and made up Sharon. Danny's like, you gave up your career to protect the source? And she's like, I gave up my career because I failed Jillian. If I'd done a better job, her name would never have come up. So Danny just like stares at her. In the silo, Juliet talks to Knox and Shirley. Knox says no. And to Shirley, he's like, you're not going to 17. He's like, I'll go alone. And Juliet's like, you can't go alone. No one can. And he's like, why not? And Shirley's like, in case one of us doesn't make it. Then he's like, then Teddy will come with me. And she's like, Jules, could you just give us a second? And she's like, I need to make a move. Shirley's like, it won't take long. So Juliet steps outside. He's like, I'll tell her. And if I do that, she'll never let. She's like, you tell her and I raise this kid alone. We don't do this, our kid and everyone in here will never be safe. And he's like, Cheryl, please, let me take someone else. And she's like, it's not the same. You know that. If you were Jules, who would you send? And he curses like a big baby because he can't have his way, paces around the room. And so she's pregnant. She's like, it has to be us, both of us. He's like, we do this and something happens to you, something happens, it's different now. I don't know if I'd come back from that. She's like, when we were on our way up to see the judge, you said you wanted to go and see it at distance. At least we'll see it together. And Knox like, you have to promise me if I go down, you just keep going. You don't stop. You don't try to save me. You just go. She didn't say anything. They open the door to tell Juliet that they'll do it. Anthony's staring at a plate of food. Sims is just silently sitting across from him. He's not even like thinking about his food. Camille walks in. They're both silent. And she's like, what's wrong? Sim's like, you want to tell her? Anthony shakes his head. He's like, your son stole 12 credits out of his teacher's desk today. Another boy saw him. When confronted by the teacher, Anthony blamed it on someone else. It's like, Anthony Aaron Sims, what do you have to say for yourself? He like shrugs. It's like, I'm going to need more than that. Sims like, school says if it happens again, he'll be expelled and sent to work in supply. And she's like, Anthony, go to your room. Now. So he leaves. And she's like, supply? Sims like, I'm judge, you're head of IT, doubt it will actually happen. She's like, that's your solution? Use our positions to fix it? It's not what I said. She's like, no, of course not. She's like, I have to read between the lines like always. And he's like, meaning? She's like, you're avoiding the problem. He's like, I went to the school. I talked to the principal. I apologized to the teacher. What am I avoiding? She's like, don't do that. Don't guilt trip me. He's like, if you feel guilt, it's not my fault. And she's like, are we still talking about Anthony? He's like, I'm not sure. Are we? She's like, you need to stop everything you've been doing. He's like, you've been watching me. You think I can't spot a tail? She's like, you're making me afraid, Rob, for our son, for our family, because whatever you're hiding, when I find out what it is, I'm going to have to do something about it. And like a chicken, she just walks out of the room and the conversation. In the minivan, Danny's like, And she's like, He's like, you kept the Pez. She's like, didn't even know I had it. He's like, really? And she's like, He's like, wasn't a memento? She's like, no. He's like, something to help you remember the world's worst blind date? And she's like, it wasn't a date. And she like smiles. He's like, oh, right. Then they hear a short burst of sirens and there's flashing lights behind him. She says, he says that she was right, and there's some motorcycle officers and a couple of cars. But then we see like more bikes at the end because we get like an overhead shot. There's like an unmarked car starts passing them. And it's like the old dude's in the back. She's like, they're not stopping us. And Danny's like, because they don't want to. They're our escort. Camille goes to the vault. She's like, I think you made a mistake. Nothing. Hello? Nothing. You there? What is a mistake? She's like, allowing Juliet to send someone to Silo 17. She's after more than the children, if there are any children. And there's like nothing. You don't know, do you? Whether or not there are children in Silo 17 does not matter. And Camille's like, how? How does it not matter? You're not really interested in an answer. You are looking for an argument. I will not engage. And quietly, she's like, fudge off. Your heart rate and respiration are elevated. And she's like, okay, I feel Julia is a threat to the silo. My husband is lying to me, and my son is a thief. All of that is on me as head of IT, as a wife, as a mother, and I'm failing. Fudge. I'm sorry you feel that way, but thoughts aren't facts. The sense of failure is the result of being emotionally exhausted. You need to find a moment for yourself to reflect. It's like, yeah, I don't know how. You already started by acknowledging your negative thoughts. Your breathing has started to normalize. You were chosen for a difficult job because you are capable. Take time to remind yourself of that, Camille. It is not a job just anyone can do. And she's like, thank you. In the TV screen, whatever room, Paul and Hank enter. One dude at a monitor's like, you're not supposed to be in here. And Paul's like, this place is not in a pact, so there is no here. Out. Emerson nods and for him to move. The room clears. So he's like, supposed to be only a few cameras left for security. Someone lied. And he's like, move. So she goes to the monitor. Orla Kent's body was found in the mines 2 days ago, right after the gas. Show me the mines right before that. And she's like, there's no cameras in the mines. He's like, I'm sure there's one at the entrance. So type. Keep going, further back. And she's like, look, you're going to see the extermination team go in with the miners inside. And he's like, why? She's like, they were trying to flush out Lucas Kyle. And Hank's like, you gassed the mines? She's like, I was following orders. Paul's just like, show us. And he's like, wait, stop. And Hank's like, that's Glenda Harwood. He's like, we need Orla Kent. So watch. He's like, show us the stairs, 10 levels down. I was like, nothing. Show us the supply at the same time. And Hank's like, no, wait, stop. Is that Glenda? Wasn't she just in the mines? And Paul's like, is this at the same time? And she's like, yeah, same 10 minutes. Paul's like, how did Glenda get from the mines to supply in 10 minutes? And she's like, I don't know. I mean, they use the garbage chutes. There's got to be some shortcut or something. So Camille says, the Juliet, it won't let you send them. And Juliet's like, I need to send people who can get poop done. That's Knox and that's Shirley. And Camille's like, that's why they can't go. They're needed here. Choose someone expendable. And Juliet's like, but for the kids to be able to make it back, I need to send Knox and Shirley. Camille's like, it can't be Knox and Shirley. And Juliet's like, the voice gave me permission. And she's like, that's nice, but until it grows a pair of arms and learns to walk, I'm the one who opens the door. Choose someone else. And she's like, okay, let's send Kennedy and Lucas. And Camille's like almost speechless. You know where they are? She's like, yeah. And Camille's like, where? And Juliet's like, well, considering you want them dead, I'm not going to tell you. Considering you want them dead, you won't mind sending them out. So Camille doesn't know what to say, and Juliet, it's her turn to just like walk away. Shirley comes into the room where Knox is, it's quiet for a bit, and finally she's like, that thing earlier with Billings, kind of intense. And Knox is like, yeah, he's an a-hole. She's like, I meant your reaction when he mentioned your father. He's like, my father is an a-hole too. And she's like, so you gonna tell me? And he's like, he was never around. I mean, maybe you'll remember, growing up, just me and my mom, and it was hard. We struggled, never enough food, never had clothes that fit. I remember when I was a little kid, I wanted one of those Freedom Day lanterns. I wanted one so bad. Couldn't afford it, but we were okay because my mom, she worked her ass off. Somehow she still made time for me. I don't know when she slept. And she's like, where was your dad? He's like, the mines. He was supposedly a great engineer, but he was always in trouble for breaking the pact, trading stolen goods mostly, I think. But the truth is, he just loved that life more than he loved us. Thing is, him being gone wasn't a problem. The problem was when he came home. He'd turn up after a stint in the mines, full of it, always trying to start poop with my mom. He would fudge our lives up, and then he'd get arrested and be gone again. And the cycle would repeat. He's like, I haven't seen him in years. And then she's like, thanks for telling me. But now that you've gotten it off your chest, go help Billings. A girl's been murdered. You might be able to help. So stupid Camille marches down the stairs, pouting. Some barrels, it looks like, are getting dragged up. More vitamin D plus, I guess. She meets with Asa, because I think he was in janitorial, like in the first season, like one of the first episodes. And she's like, it has detected low instances of vitamin D. We need you to add a boost to the water supply. You'll need to turn off the osmosis filtration system before we add it. And he gets like a look on his face. She's like, is there a problem? And he like shakes his head. So then a guy, he's addressing, it must be a group of miners. He's like, you're not here because you stole or cheated or broke the pact. You're here because you're too stupid to get away with it. Word of advice, do not try and be stupid in here, because if you do, you'll end up buried under a ton of dirt and stone. So your days of being stupid are over. Mr. Gunton here will set you up with tools. So yeah, that's it. Fudge off. So Knox walks out after I leave, and the guy's like, what are you doing here? Knox like, I need to talk with my father. And the guy's like, you bring a shovel? He died 2 years ago. And Knox is kind of like shocked. So it's like, what was the point of all that? he can't even do anything. Juliet and Camille go into the vault. Hello, Juliet Nichols. Have you chosen your candidates? She's like, I have. Deegan Knox and Shirley Campbell from Mechanical. And Camille like smiles and like shakes her head. She has this smug look on her face. It's just like, ugh. And then Camille's like, go on, run the numbers. The request is denied. Their absence would increase risk to Silo by 34%. And she's like, no, I need it to be them. Please submit alternative. I don't have any. Hello, is that it? And Camille's like, yeah, I guess we should go. And then she's like, Lucas Kyle and Patrick Kennedy. You know where they are? Camille's like, she does. She won't say. Approved. Send them out tomorrow at dawn. You may go. And Camille's like, I still think bringing those children here is a mistake. Wait one moment. And Juliet like closes the vault door. And then when she's gone, Lucas Kyle and Patrick Kennedy will never make it to Silo 17. And she's like, did you just play Juliet? Juliet Nichols requires special handling. Even if there are children alive in 17, she may still have another objective. You need to introduce vitamin D plus into the water supply as soon as possible, with Nichols' memories back. And Camille finishes, she's like, she'll infect everyone around her. It's like, I realize that, but if everyone forgets who she is, she won't matter anymore. Vitamin D plus entered the water system 2 hours ago. So the police escort in the past brings the minivan to this like gated area. It's like an airport hangar. So the old dude gets out of his car, Daniel and Helen, they can't open their doors. The doors are still locked. The police drive off, and then they try the doors again, and now they open. This big hangar door opens, and there's like a jet inside. So the lady comes out. Daniel, Helen, how would you like to help save the world? And he turns and looks at Helen. At first, I don't know who this lady was. I was like, that's not the senator. It's just like some other lady. I'm pretty sure. I don't know who she is. Because it can't be the senator. It doesn't make sense. That's where it ends. So it's like, oh my goodness. So I guess maybe they're like, okay, these two, they won't let it go. They're still going on about stuff, but they're pretty smart. They're on the right track. So let's use that knowledge or that tenacity. I don't know. So we'll see. What I'm just fascinated in is like, what does this mean? Are we getting close to like the formation of the whatchamacallit, the silo and everything? So that's what I want to know is like, how were they made? How did they get everyone there? And how far in advance did they do it? And it's like, I hope we get these answers. So the next episode is available. And I forget again. So let's see. That was 306. So there's still some more episodes after that. More than one, right? It's got to be at least. See, I never know, and I know whatever. That was Silo for the week. And now the movie feature is The End of Oak Street. So I'm just so fascinated with just like the concept of this movie. I just checked. I looked earlier or yesterday. The Rotten Tomatoes score. It's gone down a little bit, the critic score, but it's still good. But like I said, I said this earlier, and I think I probably said it last week too. I don't know where this idea came from, and I dig it. It's a dinosaur movie, but it is so much better than the Jurassic Park movies. The Jurassic Park movies, I know a lot of people love them. They're fine, they're good. Like, the last one with Scarlett Johansson, it was interesting. They do some neat things, but this one is a little different because they're not genetically modified or whatever. We can talk about that in a bit. But it's almost like these dinosaurs were more ferocious. I mean, there's like a lot of like harm happening, a lot of people getting killed, and it's interesting because in the beginning I was like, is it just this family that is dealing with the dinosaurs? But no, it's like there's other people. And let's just get this out of the way. This is not really a movie for kids. The rating, what is it rated? Okay, so it has the MPAA is a PG-13 rated for strong, violent content, bloody images, strong language, and suggestive materials. Okay, because when I went on Thursday night, and then in my row, there's like a family, it's just like so many, I know things happen, it's frustrating, you try to get there in time, or there's a line, but there's like these people coming in, like after the preview started. So this family came in, and they clearly, at first it was like, I think it was like the dad and the kid, and the kid sounded young, and the mom came a little bit later, so she must have gotten some snacks or whatever. But this kid, because like the movie, it takes a while, it sets things up, which I appreciate. It's not like bam, dinosaurs right away. You have to see, because who is this family? Why are we going to care for Ewen McGregor and Hathaway and their two kids and their dog? So it sets things up, and at one point the kid's like, "Where's the dinosaurs?" or "When the dinosaurs going to be here?" And it's just like, it wasn't that bad, but there's a couple times I could hear the kid talking, and it's like, what do parents do these days? And it's not just parents; it's like people in general. Like sometimes people are just like flat out talking. They're not even trying to whisper. And I feel like this is like because of COVID, that people just, they don't know they don't know what theater etiquette is. The other thing, while I'm on a rant here, I keep seeing so many people posting images or videos on Threads or Instagram or whatever, and there's been a lot of like Spider-Man stuff. Why are people taking pictures of movie screens? Why are people taking videos? Like I would love to take video of the Screen X because I'm talking to my buddy about it. He lives in another part, where he lives. There are no Screen X theaters like nearby, so you have these videos on YouTube with the Screen X, but I don't feel like it really. I feel like it's a little exaggerated or a little enhanced because it doesn't look that perfect. So it's like I would love this show, but I'm not going to do that because it is not the right thing to do. One, it's illegal. You're not supposed to be recording content, copyright, all that stuff. But also, it's like no one should have their phone out during a movie because then you got the light from your... Okay, so we got all that. Oh man, there's something else I wanted to bring up. I'm going to totally remember it later, like after I'm done recording, and I'm be like, but whatever. Well, I remember. The other thing that bothers me, and I think I mentioned this like 2 weeks ago or something like that, is this movie was filmed in IMAX or for IMAX, it says, or something for IMAX. And when I first looked at like showtimes, I was like, oh, it's going to be an IMAX, cool. I didn't buy my ticket, but then when I went to buy my ticket, there were no IMAX showings. So they probably would have refunded it, told me it's like, it's whatever, it's not going to happen. And the reason is because the Odyssey is still showing in IMAX. People are still going to see that, I guess, and it must be enough people. So that's kind of annoying. Whatever, it saves me a few bucks, but it's like it would have been cool. The movie's in IMAX and I don't get to see it, or it could be in IMAX. So whatever, we have that. All right, so one of the things I think makes this movie stand out, one of the things that, and it's a minor thing, I don't know. The movie takes place in 1982. It wasn't specific in the beginning. It didn't, because at first I'm looking at this, I'm looking at like, they have their socks pulled up or, just the way they're dressed and the hairstyles and stuff like that. So it's clearly, and you got the cars. I'm not like a total expert on cars. I'm trying to look at this as like, I don't think these are, there could have been some cars from the 70s, but I think, I was like, I might be in the 80s, but it's not the late 80s. And so it's 1982. I think that right there sets it apart from like the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movies, because things are a little different. It's one thing when you don't have like the internet immediately, smartphones and stuff like that. So I think that does add to things because things were a little simpler. It's not a huge necessity or anything like that, but I can kind of appreciate that. And what we see, so how much do I discuss? It starts off, there's like a block party, in this neighborhood, they're I don't know if it's the 4th of July or something like that, but everyone's out, barbecuing and just talking and stuff like that. And it, family potato sack race and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, this is a, the family, things are going really well. But then you see like little things, kind of like little bits of tension. So things aren't like super great between Anne Hathaway and Ewen McGregor. There's even a point where, he ends up leaving because she's like, oh, the grill's ready for you to barbecue. He's like, well, I got to go do some deliveries. And at first it's like, deliveries? Like, what is he, like, selling drugs or something like that? But it's like, no, he's selling pizza. Because he's like, it's good money or whatever. So he's doing like extra, a side hustle. She's like, I thought you weren't going to do the side hustle anymore or whatever. He's like, no, it's whatever. So there's like tension and stuff like that. There's just little things that don't really matter. But like at one night, there's like a big flash of light, and it's like, what's going on? And the neighbor, so there's a lot of tension with their neighbor, and because the son, they have a son and a daughter. He has a dog, and the dog got in his yard one time, and dug under the fence, and I guess pooped in their yard or did some stuff. So he's like very angry and stuff like that. And he like threatens, he's like, with that dog, because she's like, okay, we'll make sure the dog's tied up and stuff like that. He's like, well, the dog is on, so I'm going to spoil something, minor thing, whatever. But he's like, if that dog is on my property again, he's like, I'm going to shoot it. And she's like, she was like about to walk away. She like turns around. She's like, my husband's too nice to say this. He's like, but if you, she says, I remember exactly now, I'm ruining it. She's like, but if you point a gun at our dog, she's like, I'll burn your house down. And I'll burn your fudging house down or something like that. So it's like, okay, way to go, Anne Hathaway. She's not messing around here. So you can appreciate that. And part of the thing is like Ewan McGregor, he's like really nice. because then like the next day, there's a big flash of light at night. There's like stuff going on. The neighbor comes and knocks on the door in the morning, and he's like, oh, that's a prank that your kid pulled. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, come look, whatever. And Ewan McGregor, he's very polite and everything. He's like, I'll help you clean this up and whatever. It's something that's not normal that has to do with what's happening here. So the way it's described, there's like a cosmic event that causes, see what exactly they say, I don't know, but it's a suburban neighborhood has been transported into prehistoric times. So something happens, they end up there. And that's really what the movie's about, because it starts off, there's a flash of light, it's raining, there's a storm going on. I think Ewan McGregor was even like delivering. He had just gotten home like shortly before that. The big flashlight, and then the power goes out. So they're like, okay, maybe the power will go on in the morning. They don't realize what's going on, because it's not like it's like their entire neighborhood was transported. You look outside, it's just like, oh, the power's out. Okay, you can't tell what's going on. But then dinosaurs start like roaming around and stuff like that, and they start to realize there's something going on. So it's like, what do? You can't just sit in your house. You got to figure out, how do you get out of there? But there's no telling, where can they go? Is it just their street, their neighborhood, or their state? What is happening? They have no idea. And I feel like the 1982, time makes that a little, more realistic, that they can't figure it out. I mean, even if it was in like present day and the power's out, they're probably not going to have any internet or anything like that. But would there still be phone cell service, or maybe not. So I feel like the 1982 stuff really, really helps. And stuff starts happening, and it's like you see like people getting killed, getting chomped and attacked and stuff like that. So that it adds tension. So while this movie, there's some comedy involved with it, there's also, and it's a little absurd, the fact that the neighborhood is transported in time. It's like that. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it sets up the story. So it's just like, well, Jurassic Park, whatever. Is it possible to genetically clone the whatever fossilized ember, and make real dinosaurs? What's easier to understand? Maybe you're like, well, it's science, maybe that could happen. Yeah, maybe it could, but maybe there could be a cosmic event that causes a neighborhood to transport in time. I don't know, because who's to say? And so this is really a movie about survival, but on top of it, while the family is trying to stay together and stay alive, there's that bit of tension going on, and it makes it hard. But at the same time, obviously it's going to draw them closer, right? Maybe. So I just really enjoyed it, and Hathaway and McGregor. I mean, they're so good, and they just I feel like they really sold the movie, because and I mentioned when we get this like intro, like seeing who they are, what they're doing, and how they're acting, and getting like the hints and finding out that there's more stuff going on. I think that helps to make the movie feel a little more real, considering you're talking about dinosaurs and time travel or whatever this stuff is. So I think that really helps establish that kind of balance it, even though it's like it's extremely far-fetched, but whatever, that's the sake of the movie. So I think you just need to look at this as, this is a goofy idea. It's a goofy concept, but you have that little bit, that little setup, and that's what makes it work. And it, like I said, it's so much more interesting. And maybe that little bit of, you got that more suspension of disbelief, that makes it more interesting than the Jurassic Park movie. And again, I'm not knocking those, because I'm fine with those for the most part. But there's just something about this, and also the fact that they are not prepared for this. Like, what do? It's not like you have dinosaur hunting gun or nets or whatever. You're 1982 suburbia, and then all of a sudden there's these big dinosaurs and little dinosaurs and pterodactyls, and so it's like, what are you going to do? How are you going to get out of there? And so I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed it. And here's the Steelbook seal of approval. Before I went to see the movie, I went to it was like a 6:30 showing, and the Steelbook coming soon image came out, was revealed. So I'm like, I kind of like that. It's kind of interesting. There's like a footprint and like a sign for like Oak Street, whatever, knocked over and everything like that. So I kind of dig that. And then late at night, pre-orders went up. I pre-ordered it. So that's like the big test. If I like the movie enough, I'm going to buy a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray on Steelbook, because I want to own it. I want that physical media in my library. So it's definitely a fun movie. It's worth seeing on the big screen. You got these big dinosaurs and everything like that. And like I said, things get intense. There might be some surprises that you're not expecting, and that's what I appreciate. Is it's because you might think like, oh, it's going to be a big Hollywood happy ending. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying just there's a chance that it might not be. There's a chance that it might be. So that's what I like, is when you're watching this, is like you're not really sure. Because it's almost like, because this isn't like, part of a franchise or, something like that, it's like anything goes. Anything's like fair game. So that raises the stakes and really, really changes things. So I dig that, and I appreciate that. So that makes it, cool to see and experience. So definitely, go see this movie, support it, because, like I said, it is something different. Let's see, what can we say? What more can we say? And I won't go through all the ratings, because, like I said, I don't know if that's worth it. Rotten Tomato score as of now, and again, this can change. Critic score is at 84%, so it's certified fresh. 84% of the critics gave it a favorable review, so that's good. And then popcorn meter is a 75%. 75% of the audience gave it a favorable review, so that's good. And I don't even know if these reviews, sometimes these people are just so whatever. It's like, it's almost like they're bitter. But there's no real extreme ones here. But I think you should check it out. Let's see what we have. Also, it had a budget of 80 to 92 million. That's like a weird range of numbers. So like, $90 million, whatever. Apparently, let's see. It made. It was released alongside Paw Patrol, the Dino movie. Oh, I saw someone said there's another dinosaur movie that is in theaters now, and I was like, what other? I don't know anything about Paw Patrols, but I did see that like a Paw Patrol poster was available, like a poster to take. I didn't take one. I didn't look. Obviously, I didn't look carefully because I don't know if there's dinosaurs on it. So it opened against Paw Patrol, Dino Movie, and Brink of War. It's projected to gross around 20 to 25 million during its opening weekend. In addition, it's projected to make more than 2 million in Thursday night previews. The film was produced on a budget of 80 to 92 million. So 20 to 25 million is not a lot, but the problem is, one, it's an August release, so August usually isn't like big blockbuster numbers. It's also, people are still crazily going to see Spider-Man, and I'm assuming people are still going to see the Odyssey. I didn't mention in the beginning, but Odyssey has made $1 billion now. So people are still going to see Odyssey and Spider-Man, and they're probably not necessarily going to go see this. The End of Oak Street, it's not like a catchy title. I like these titles that are a little vague like this, but it's not really selling stuff. Versus Spider-Man or the Odyssey, people know what that is. So I don't know. I mean, if it's only making 25 million, it's got a ways to go. So hopefully it does well because I dug it. I enjoyed it, and I do recommend you see it in a theater on a big screen. That's all I have to say, I guess. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. End it there. That will be the podcast for the week. So a big thanks to Andrew Lookin. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you will get access to that Sacred Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 20 to 30 minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. I often look back at the weird, wacky Silver Age comics, and I also sometimes do off-of-mind topics, and I think I have one that I'm going to talk about, some random topic, and I'm also open to suggestions if there's something you want to hear about. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 4. ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. All right, so what is going to be next week? Here's the thing. Now, I'm seeing, let's just past tense, right? I saw Nimrods this past weekend. I saw it later in the weekend. I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to be able to record and edit and, put it in here. So Nimrods will be on next week's episode. I don't know if that's going to be the only thing, because there's also an Insidious movie, I think. I know nothing about this. I keep meaning, it's like, I should check out the trailer. I will check it out. So I don't know if it's, those movies they're fine. They're interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth watching at this point, because how many have there been? So maybe that will be, one of those two will be the main feature. But I will definitely, so if I do see Insidious, I'll talk about Insidious. There's going to be a lot to talk about next week if I go see Insidious. I'm pretty sure since it's not The Conjuring. Right? Maybe I should check it so I don't sound completely crazy. Let's see. So if I click, Insidious Out of the Further. And in Insidious Out of Further, Amelia Eve stars as Gemma, a young mother raising her daughter in the house she grew up in, who discovers she can travel into the further. Is the further something that's in the other Insidious? I just totally don't remember. I don't know about that. I'm not sure who Amelia Eve is. Maybe I've seen her stuff. Yeah, so I don't know if that's worth. It's an hour and 46 minutes. We'll see. So like I said, I'll watch the trailer and figure out if I want to do that or not. Because then, we're also going to have Silo, Batman, X-Men, and My Adventures of Superman, and Lantern. See, there's going to be a lot to talk about. And I'm starting up school, and this is going to be such a busy, insane year. I am not looking forward to it, but that's fine. The thing is, it'll work out, right? So that's going to be it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. I hope you are doing well. Hope things go better for you than they are for me. Hope you're taking care of yourself, and I hope you remember, be good to each other.